Let us pray. Almighty God, where you have called us to govern this province, we ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and that will promote the interests of the people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om al ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelela ilezwe letu na bantu balo. Umusile ukulungu kwepondo letu. Posi sikelela i Afrika. Tina abantwana bayo. Kokela inkokeli zayo. Yaniki uxolo i Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. Please be seated. Particular eventuality, the standing rules must apply, and in instances, honourable men you desire to raise a point of order, and I will recognize you. When an honourable member in the House, when the chamber wishes to raise a point of order, such an honourable member may address presiding officer, but must mute their microphones when they have completed speaking. The cameras while the sitting is in progress. If an individual who is not a member of this House activates their microphone and camera, for the sitting honourable respective channels. Lastly, honourable members, I wish to remind you and draw your paper, and I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you very much to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for putting this on the order paper. I think obviously, you know, as he says in here, answers to the questions on the 9th, which is this document here, answers to the questions on the 15th, same question in that document there. Visit, because of course we visited just after the president had sent Sydney Mufamadi there to try and do probably exactly what we were trying to do as well. And I am very certain that our trip definitely served its purpose. You know, we need to understand that South Africa trades with the world, and our trade with the world is about 1.8 trillion rands worth of trade. 0.2% of that trade is with Russia. And of course, that's what this is all about. It's about Russia. Again, I say we engaged with the experts, policy advisors, representatives, and staff members of the US Congress committees and organizations that are influential with regard to the AGOA process. Of course, the meetings weren't only about AGOA. I mean, we had meetings with a range of various companies like Hecate and Amazon and Netflix and NASA and Amazon Prime and Disney, and we had a whole range of other meetings as well. But the ones or the specifically to new and emerging companies in our region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable Dagmar, before I recognize you, can I just get direction from the table staff? I see in the chat, online chat, that there is a difficulty or technical difficulties with the sound. So I don't want to not allow the members that's online, as per the rules, not to be able to partake in the sitting. So, honourable members, just please allow me a minute. Honourable members, I'm advised that it will take 2 minutes to fix the technical glitch, and in the interest of allowing the members that's online to participate in the sitting, I'm going I want to suspend for 2 minutes, but I need you to work with me. So please do not exit the chamber, but I'm going to, for the sake of procedure, suspend for 2 minutes.
Can you hear it? I'm knocking on the mic. Can you hear a knock? Hey, there's 1, 2. Okay.
Order, members. Order. Thank you very much, honourable members, and my apologies for the technical glitch. Can I just, before we proceed, can I just ask Honourable Kasim, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I can, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kasim. Honourable members, we will proceed. I recognise the Honourable Dugmore.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I think the Premier's reply explains exactly what the problem of the DA in the Western Cape is. They would want to only focus on our relationship in trade and otherwise with the United States and Western country. I want to remind the Speaker that our country is part of BRICS. We have relationships with the West, we have relationships with the East, with Brazil, with Russia, with India and China. And the reality is that Western Cape farmers export to Russia. And you say nothing about that. This is the double standard. So our interest as the ANC is to make sure that we build those relationships across the globe. And the reality is that
Order.
the DA lied
Order,
to
members.
the voters of the Western Cape when they said they are going to the United States to meet lawmakers. Now, I want to make it very clear that a lawmaker is someone like MEC Britell or Member Nkondo. But none of the lawmakers, not one
Order.
member of Congress, not one member of the Senate, agreed to meet the Premier. They met with staff members and they told everyone that they were going there to actually meet with lawmakers. So they misled the people of the Western Cape. Our national government is responsible for the AGOA agreement, not the Western Cape. And the reality is that 1.5
Order.
million rand,
Order.
one and a half
Order, members.
1.5 million rand was spent on going to the United States,
Honourable
where they could
Dugmore,
have had all those
Honourable
meetings
Dugmore.
on Zoom.
Honourable
Why did you
Dugmore,
have the meetings on Zoom if
Honourable
you did not
Dugmore.
meet a single lawmaker?
please take your seat. Honourable members. Honourable members. Honourable members on my left-hand side. Members, honourable members, both on my right and my left-hand side. I know that you are very, very honourable, Honourable Windvogel, I'm on the floor. Honourable members. Honourable members, you are wasting your time. There's time as per the rules for interpellations. And if the time has expired, we will move on with the business of the day. Can I please ask that you allow the member on the floor to make his or her submission? And if you have any interjections, then do so, but do not compromise the decorum of the House. And this is all members. Honourable Dugmore, my apologies, you may continue.
Thank you, Speaker. Dis duidelik dat die waarheid maak seer. Inyani is ngubhlungu o DA. Inyani is ngubhlungu. Bayakhala ngoko, hulle wil net skree nou. So the issue is this. It was correct, Speaker, that the Premier did engage the International Relations Department, and it was correct that, but yet we have MEC Simmers over there who disrespects cooperative government by totally undermining the Minister of Human Settlements, who's trying to resolve the issue of the railway line, the central line. Then he starts fighting, and then we have a situation of Honourable Murray. Honourable Murray tried to influence people on the
Order.
trip to California.
Honourable Dugmore, my apologies, please take your seat.
Sure.
Order, members. Honourable members. Honourable Deputy Chief Whip, is there a point of order?
Speaker, I rise on Rule 59(1) that the member is imputing improper.
Honourable Minister Mania, there's a member on the floor. My apologies, Deputy Chief Whip.
59 subsection 1. regarding the member imputing improper motives and reflecting on the integrity and dignity of Minister Simmers.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip. I will revert to Hansard and come back to the House and make a ruling on that. Honorable members, before I allow Honorable Dagmo to continue, interjections are allowed, but the minute you are drowning out the speaker or you are affecting the decorum of the House, that will not be tolerated. It is the nature of the beast of Parliament to have robust debates, but you are bordering on infringing on the right of the speaker, which we will not tolerate. Honorable Dagmo, can I please also ask that you speak through me in order for me to protect you? You may continue.
Very much, Speaker. Is duidelik dat die waarheid maak seer. En ja nee, so kuphlungu by kaak DA. Hulle lieg vir ons mense. The DA is lying to our people because at the end of the day, if you look at the disaster that the so-called Provincial Powers Bill is creating, where three lawyers have rejected.
Order, members. Honorable Kama, is that a point of order?
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, as you had just ruled, really this can't be fair. It's for the third time. Every time Member Dagmo says something, all the ministers here, except the Provincial Minister of Health, they are making noise, and we can't hear the member. Can you please identify them so that they can leave this house if they don't want to be part of this house anymore?
Thank you very much, Honorable Kama. Honorable Kama, that is not a point of order. But with that being said, members, this will be the last time that I'm asking for your cooperation and allow the member that's on the floor on either side of the House to make his or her submission and presentations to the House. With that being said, Honorable Dagmo, your first opportunity has expired, and I now recognize the Honorable. What's your point of order, Honorable Dagmo?
Jefferson, my point of order is that I've been trying to respond in my first opportunity. And with all these interjections, the flow of my entire presentation has been interrupted.
Order.
So I would request at least
Order, members.
a minute. Because otherwise, this is a strategy of the DA van die waarheid maak seer. In Janis op Flungu and
Okay.
go by.
Honorable Dagmo, what's your point of order? Order. What's your point of order?
I'm asking for a minute to actually conclude what my first response.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dagmo. Honorable members, Honorable Dagmo, that is not a point of order. There is time allocated as per the rules. You've had your first opportunity of 3 minutes. I'm guided by the clock and by the table staff, and your 3 minutes has expired. I recognize the Honorable Fry.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, what is the truth? Wat is die waarheid? Intoni inyaniso. Codes veritas. The truth is, if you ask the residents of this province, what is the one thing that concerns them the most is jobs. That is the one thing that concerns the people of this province the most. And we as a government will be failing in our duty, will be derelict in our direction if we don't try to save jobs. Honorable Speaker, it is clear that the national government did not take the AGOA Act into serious consideration when the American government decided was wondering as to what our relationship with Russia was, particularly over the incident of the Lady R ship docking in Simonstown. So the government had to take action. And therefore, the trip to America to discuss the AGOA Act and our inclusion post-2025 was valid, and yes, the trip served its purpose. Because this is what we're here to preserve. We're here to preserve and to create jobs. Over 100,000 jobs are on the line if we were to be retracted from the AGOA Act, the AGOA Agreement. So therefore, this government and the trip that went to the US served its purpose, and it was valid. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Fry. Honorable members. This continuous dialogue needs to stop. If you want to make a submission, make sure that you're on the order paper or on the speakers list. Honorable Christians, I recognize you.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, if you now go to Google and you Google Lady R, it will say known hashtag Lady Russellgate. Now, Speaker, we must remember the one thing. The one thing here, it's about jobs and protecting the jobs of our people. I'm sure the ANC would have said, if the Premier did not go, Premier, why did you not go as the Premier of the Western Cape? I'm sure they would have done that. So we must ask the question today, is the ANC against jobs? That is what it's all about. And the question is,
Order.
the question
Order.
must be, is Russia
Order.
funding your political campaign? That is the question. That is the question. So I want to say
Order.
today to the ANC, stop this. This was a decision of the House for the Premier to go, and the Premier defended the people of the Western Cape. I want to know,
Order.
is Cameron Duckmore, member Cameron Duckmore, still the leader of the ANC? Or is there other member, a leader of the
Order.
ANC? I thank you.
Order. Thank you, Honorable Christians. Order, members. Order, members. Honorable Kama, I recognize you. Honorable Kama. Order, members. Can I please ask that the whips of both political parties on my left and right, please control your members. Honorable Kama.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to check if the member is sitting on the correct seat, because government is clapping, but it's opposition on this side.
Thank you, Honorable Kama. That is not a point of order. Order, members. The next speaker is Honorable Kasim on the virtual platform. Honorable Kasim, I recognize you.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it is important to state from the outset that AGOA is a legislation by the United States of America which is aimed at enhancing market access to the US for qualifying sub-Saharan African countries. So this is a piece of legislation which only deals with matters of trade amongst countries at the highest level, and nowhere does this legislation mention agreements between the US and provinces such as the Western Cape. This is further made clear by the requirements which countries must fulfill in order to remain as beneficiaries, which are the improvement of the rule of law, protection of human rights, and respect for the core labor standards, just to mention a few. So these requirements must be fulfilled by a country or a nation state holistically and are not expected from a province on its own. So the Premier's response on the second point on the question paper of 28th July, that trade and tourism promotion are areas of concurrent national and provincial legislative, is neither here nor there and lacks merit in its totality. And promoting, Speaker, trade and tourism is one thing, but flying to another country under the pretext that you are going to negotiate with the US on matters connected to AGOA is not only misleading, but pitiful. As I have demonstrated, Speaker, above, to be eligible to benefit under AGOA, a country as a whole need to meet certain requirements. So from where we stand, the Premier, the Provincial Minister of Finance and Economic Opportunities, and other staff members flew all the way to the USA, to the US, wasting more than 2 million rands worth of taxpayers' money in the process just to meet with staff members from different Senate committees to discuss matters which are way above the pay grade. Speaker, the fact that the Western Cape agricultural sector will experience high risk and impact when the AGOA benefits are lost does not on its own qualify members of the provincial executive to fly to another country to discuss matters which have nothing to do with them, and certainly those they cannot influence. So having said that, Speaker, my question to the Premier: is the Premier of the opinion that if South Africa is to be excluded from AGOA, then due to his visit and meeting with the Senate staff members, Western Cape will all of a sudden be recognized as a nation
Honorable
state,
Kasim, please
so that it can
conclude. Your
benefit
time
from
has
AGOA?
expired.
If not, what was the rationale for his trip that wasted taxpayers' money?
Thank you very much, Honorable Kasim. I recognize the Honorable Dagmo. Honorable Dagmo, this is your second opportunity.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it seems to me that the more answers we get from the Premier, the more questions are raised. The Premier wrote a letter to Durko, and I've got a copy of that letter, and I want to quote from it, that the reason for going to the United States is to explore possible collaboration with philanthropic organizations, foundations, as far as key catalytic projects of the province are concerned, end quote. So in his letter, he did not once mention that he was going there for AGOA to meet lawmakers. Isn't that dishonest? Because in this letter, he says nothing about AGOA, absolutely nothing.
Honorable Dagmo, please take your, Honorable Dagmo, please take your seat. Honorable Deputy Chief Whip.
Chair, in terms of Rule 59, Member Dagmore, well, I'm referring to the Premier said heilig. This is unparliamentary in terms of Rule 59. Please could you rule on it?
Thank you very much. Honorable Dagmo, did you refer to the Premier or did you say to the Premier, heilig?
Speaker, I said his letter lied, but I'm prepared to withdraw that. I will provide a copy.
Oh, order members. Order members. Honorable members, I do not need assistance to chair the sitting. Honorable Dagmore, did you refer to the Honorable Premier when you made that statement?
I said that the letter written by the Premier was a lie.
Did you refer?
Comparing, in terms of his
Order members.
In terms of his
Order members.
Speaker, can I just explain this? In the public domain, the
Honorable Dagmore
was going to see AGOA. In his letter,
order
he mentions
members.
nothing about that.
Honorable Dagmore, honorable members, there's a member on the floor. You are continuing, and that is both sides of this house. This is the last warning before I move over to naming you. Honorable Dagmore, I've asked you a question. You do not need to justify your statement. I'm asking you, there was a point of order. Did you refer to the Premier when you made that statement? Yes or no?
I did.
Can you please withdraw it?
it?
That's unparliamentary.
And I will provide a copy of the letter. Thank you.
Can you please withdraw?
I withdraw.
Okay, then you
will
can
provide
continue.
a copy of the letter, but I withdraw the statement. If I can continue, Speaker, is that fine?
Yeah.
So before the Premier and his delegation left, they knew they were going on a fishing expedition at a cost of 1.6 million. Let me repeat, the ANC at this level and a national level will do everything and are doing everything in our power to keep AGOA intact, as we are with other relationships. That is why this very Premier and his department had to consult with national government. We want a breakdown of the 1.6 million. We are not satisfied that nearly 1 million rand was spent on traveling alone. This amounts to a whopping 150,000 rand per member of the delegation and 500,000 rand for accommodation. In a time of economic hardship suffered by the majority of our people, this is not acceptable. The people of our province have nothing tangible to take from this 1.6 million. In fact, we have every reason to believe that what this trip was actually about was, in fact, to try and go and raise funds for the DA, because banewali kuba baza ku lose aan yakuzayo kalonyulo. Hulle gaan verloor, nou moet hulle gaan geld soek. Hulle moet gaan geld soek daar buite van die Amerikaners. That's the reason. I want to conclude by saying that Western Cape farmers import fertilizer from Russia. Moenie skyn heilig wees nie. Moenie skyn heilig wees nie. They get fertilizer. Is it in our interest to keep our relationships with everyone or to be ideological to the extent that the DA is? I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dagmore. Honorable Premier, I recognize you.
Thank you very much. Quite a lot of questions to get through. Let me start with the first point on this letter that the Honourable Dugmore is talking about and the lies that go along with it. Here you can see it's called International Relations and Cooperation. This is the reply letter. This says proposed institutions, organizations or counterparts and the delegation would like to have meetings with. Kindly request the mission to assist the setup of the following. A, courtesy call with the Ambassador and Consul General. B, influential key decision making pertaining to AGOA, i.e. USA business associations, buyers, lobbyists, lobby groups, relating to AGOA, World Bank, NASA, USSA Business Chamber and US Council, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, SA Tourism New York. That's on the letterhead of your national minister. So don't come here with your nonsense. Don't come here with your absolute nonsense. Let's also just talk about one outcome. Let's talk about one outcome, Speaker. 40 billion rand investment from Amazon. 40 billion rand investment from Amazon. Who we went back to go and meet with because of issues landing the investment. Second, straight after getting that going, Amazon Web Services comes here and initiates their first training institute outside of the USA. Where do they do it? In Cape Town for 1 million free graduates that they will fund in tech and innovation and cloud computing. 1 million degrees will come out of that one investment. But let's also just talk about the whole trip and reasoning for the trip. So if you look at the letter from the Congress of the United States signed by Senator Coons, Senator Meeks, Member Risch, and Member McCall, and you go and have a look at that letter, and you read here, South African government has formally taken the neutral stance on Russia's unlawful invasion of the Ukraine, but has deepened its military relationships with Russia over the past year. Late last year, the Russian cargo vessel, despite US sanctions, docked in the South Africa's largest naval port. It goes on to ask whether we are friend or foe, whether South Africa is friend or foe. And then they start talking about AGOA forming South Africa would serve implicit endorsement of South Africa's damaging support for Russian invasion of Ukraine and possible violation of US sanctions and the US sanction law. We have to take these kind of things very seriously. And you know that we met with Senator Coons' office to say, please don't take the AGOA summit away from South Africa. Please keep it in South Africa. If you need to bring it to the Western Cape, we're more than happy to host this in the Western Cape. Then coming out of our visit, we get invited by the Committee on Trade to make a presentation to the Committee on Trade. I personally gave the Committee on Trade, the Standing Committee on Trade at Congress, our presentation. It's 29 pages long. Here is the presentation that I gave. And you know what is quite interesting? There was not one other province there and no national government official from South Africa there at all on AGOA. There were other countries there from sub-Saharan Africa, and there was, of course, business interests represented there from sub-Saharan Africa. That shows how much disdain the ANC treats this kind of relationship, which is all about jobs. It's about jobs and the economy, and they don't give a damn about jobs because just exactly what happened.
Order. Premier, please take your seat. Honorable members. Honorable Nkondlo, I'm on the floor. Honorable members, you had an opportunity, Honorable Dugmore, and this constant dialogue while the Premier is responding is not allowed. Colleagues, I don't know what's happening today, but I mean, this is the interjections. I don't want to stifle debate and interjections and allow you to partake in Parliament, but you're drowning out the speaker and you're affecting the decorum. We have guests in the gallery. Can I please ask that you work with me so that we can get through the business of the day? Premier, your time has expired, so I'm going to allow you to conclude.
Can I say that the Honourable Dugmore's spurious accusations of fundraising in the US, I think the Honourable Christians is exactly correct. It's exactly the opposite. How do you balance 0.2% of 1.8 trillion with a kind of force? It's the Russians that are funding the ANC.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable members, that concludes interpellation 1 as printed on the question paper. And now we move on to interpellation 2, and I recognise the Honourable Minister, Minister Brudel.
Baie dankie, agbare Speaker. Die voortsleepende waterkrisis in Matsikama munisipaliteit is gevolg van 'n kombinasie van verskeie faktore wat grootliks verband hou met die volgende 3 aspekte. Die eerste een, waterverspreiding uitdaging as gevolg van 'n netwerk en pompstasie uitdaging is geskeduleerde instandhouding van die waterinfrastruktuurnetwerk en dan opsetlike skade aan eiendom. Die departement het tot die gevolgtrekking gekom dat daar die voldoende watervoorsiening van die bron af beskikbaar is en dit gaan als oor die verspreiding van daardie water en die infrastruktuur om die water in die huishoudings te kry. Met ander woorde, die pompstasie, die pypleidings wat verouderd is, pype wat bars weens hulle ouderdom wat nooit in stand gehou is nie, en dan om voor die dag te kom met 'n langtermyn oplossing. Eerstens, die oplossings is die eerste een is die noodfase. So wanneer daar 'n probleem is, het ons gekyk na die noodfase en dit was om die herstel van die pompstasies en die pompstasies terug aan lyn te kry. Dan tweedens die kapitaalprojek om die ou asbespypleiding en die bou van 'n nuwe pompstasie te vervang. Hierdie twee projekte sal die huidige uitdagings verlig en daar is ook toekomstige projekte in die beplanning om die waterbronne aan te vul en te diversifiseer wat waterveerkragtigheid sal verseker. Nou net om meer in te lig, ons het ook die groeipotensiële studie van dorpe, ekonomiese groei en dan ook populasiegroei en om water te voorsien vir langtermyn is dit 'n langtermynplan. Verskeie belanghebbendes was betrokke by die verskillende inisiatiewe en die vermoëns om hierdie uitdagings op te los. My departement het betaal vir die sekondering van 'n ervare professionele ingenieur wat die munisipaliteit in die hoedanigheid as waarnemende tegniese direkteur bystaan om die lewering van die tegniese dienste te stabiliseer terwyl die munisipaliteit tans besig is om hierdie posisie permanent te vul. Met bewusmaking van hierdie wateruitdagings het my departement 'n tweede ingenieur gesekondeer wat vir 'n week op die grond was en hand aan hand met die munisipaliteit gewerk het. Hierdie ingenieur het in samewerking met 'n diensverskaffer, kontrakteurs en ander ingenieurs gewerk om die bestaande uitdagings op te los. Nadat ek besef het dat die pogings op die grond nie so vinnig resultate lewer soos beplan nie, het ons nog 3 ingenieurs insluitend my direkteur van infrastruktuur gestuur om oplossings te vind vir die waterkrisis in Vredendal en om die burgers se las te verlig. My ontplooide span het met verskeie instansies en vrywilligers gewerk in belanghebbendes in die munisipaliteit, onder andere die distrikmunisipaliteit, 'n plaaslike mynmaatskappy, die departement van water en sanitasie het aan boord gekom, so dit was 'n totaal span pogings. 'n Tydelike tegnikus en pypleiding wat deur die maatskappy verskaf is om te verseker dat daar 'n meer robuuste alternatiewe opsie in plek was, is daar gestel. Met hierdie veelsidige pogings is die uitdagings versag en kon ons verseker dat mense water het in die huis, nie onder die ideale druk of onder ideale omstandighede, maar individue het water tot hulle beskikking gehad. Die tweede deel van die interpellasie, agbare spreker, my departement se direktoraat vir munisipale infrastruktuur en spesiale ondersteuningseenhede het die afgelope paar maande nou saamgewerk met Matsikama munisipaliteit as deel van 'n nuwe munisipale ondersteuningsplan wat verband hou met die tegniese bystand en grootmaat watervoorsiening en infrastruktuurbeplanning. Die departement het verder ook sakeplanne vir infrastruktuurontwikkeling in samewerking met munisipale tegniese personeel opgestel, munisipale ingryping.
Honourable Minister, please conclude. Your first opportunity has expired. Your time has expired.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognize the Honourable Maran.
Thanks very much, Speaker. Good afternoon to everyone present. MEC Lorwa, the Water Association, gave notice to the municipality in March about maintenance work. So you can never blame Lorwa for the water crisis that happened in that particular area. And basically what we are saying is that the officials of Matsikama don't know what they're doing. That's exactly what you're saying. Speaker, today's interpellation on the water crisis in Matsikama is not about Matsikama and water alone. It's about the utter failure in the Department of Local Government to invest in municipal infrastructure. And by the DA-led Matsikama municipality to invest in infrastructure. Because the MEC have said they're now going to replace the asbestos pipes. Now after so many years. When the city of Cape Town nearly reached the so-called day zero
2 to 3 years ago, the DA and city in the province were quick to blame the national government. We are not responsible for bulk water supply, they shouted. Well, the crisis in Matsikama was not about bulk water, it was about the inability of the DA and municipality and province to simply maintain water infrastructure. Last year in the 2022 budget, the ANC complained about a cut in the municipal infrastructure budget. We complained because increases in budget were made to other programs in the department, such as administration, while vital services such as municipal infrastructure was being cut. The MEC is quick to complain that there are cuts to budget for national, but the reality is the shift critical funds away from critical areas such as municipal infrastructure to fund corporate affairs. And there is a reason why we complain about this cut in municipal infrastructure budget. It is because we know that it will be poor areas where colored and African people live, which will suffer from the lack of proper municipal infrastructure. Who suffered the most in Matsikama? Who suffered the most in Matsikama? The poor, marginalized, black and colored people. White people have water all the time. Their taps never went dry during that particular process.
Thank you very much.
Truth.
Honorable Maran, please
That's
take
the truth.
Honorable
You can't
Maran.
deny it.
Honorable Maran, please take your seat. Honorable Chief Whip, is there a point of order?
Honourable Speaker, can I please ask that the honourable member on the floor address you and not the minister directly? Thank you.
Thank you
Speaker.
very much, Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable member, please speak to me or speak through me.
You are it, Maxia, Speaker. Speaker, what eventually came for some, those in the drop and who are better off, those who are poor and working class, colored and African had to suffer extra days without water. Almost 14 days to be exact. But this is the result of apartheid DA planning. This is the result of apartheid DA investment in infrastructure. This is the result of apartheid DA giving resources to improve infrastructure in towns, in white areas, but poor colored and African people can continue to suffer. This is the DA apartheid government at its best. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maran. I now recognize the Honorable Seleko.
Maar Speaker, baie dankie vir die geleentheid. Speaker, ek dink wat seer maak is die feit dat die whole of society approach het nou plaasgevind by Matsikama deur die gemeenskap, deur die vloede en die uitdaging kon aanvat en aanpak en hulle het met oplossing gekom in van plaas om te complain en dis wat seer maak. Infrastructure failure, reservoir overflows and leakages from water distribution systems results in a national annual wastage of 1.3 billion kiloliters. This equates to a distressing daily loss of 3.6 million kiloliters. This is very concerning. These national figures from 2021 likely underestimate the current extent of water loss, considering the severe battering endured by water infrastructure due to the persistent high levels of load shedding over the past few years. National water infrastructure countrywide has been neglected for years and is now requires an estimated investment of almost 90 billion over the next 10 years to upgrade water infrastructure in the whole of the country. Shockingly, approximately 20% of all water losses countrywide can be attributed to illegal connections, meter inaccuracies, and data transfer errors. The cost associated with unauthorized connection alone amounts to a staggering 250 million annually. While the National Department of Water and Sanitation is responsible for these leaking distribution systems, which includes pipes and taps, the Western Cape government is currently working on a plan to improve water infrastructure in the province. The plan includes a number of initiatives, such as investing in new dams and pipelines, upgrading existing infrastructure, promoting water conservation, and raising awareness on the importance of water resources. My question to the Honourable Minister, is he aware of any work being done in the province by the National Department of Water and Sanitation to repair and upgrade water distribution systems that leak millions of kiloliters daily? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Seleko, and that's also the end of your time allocation. I now recognize the Honorable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it has been revealed that the water shortage was a result of poor infrastructure. And it says further in the media, it says by Mr. Billy Claassen that it's because of poor infrastructure. Now, this doesn't happen over time. It happens over time. It doesn't happen immediately. So surely people must be responsible for that. Must be, but we cannot come to this house and drive race-based politics. We must bring communities together and say, how are we going to solve this problem? Minister, what is your plan? Because people must be held responsible for this water shortage. So lastly, I want to ask the minister, Minister, I know your department is working hard in order to make sure that there's no water shortages, but there is an administration that must be held responsible for the shortage of water. I want to know, are those officials going to account, and are they going to be brought to book? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. I recognize the Honourable Klaas. Order members. Order members. Members, Honourable Klaas, can you push? Oh, it's on now. Your microphone was not on.
The resident of Fredental in Matsikama municipality are subjected to by the DA-led municipality is not only infringement of the protected constitutional right, but the intentional punishment. The DA has placed incompetent individual in the position of power who cannot even engage in proper infrastructure planning for purpose of making sure that residents receive adequate clean water as the constitution requires. A municipality which cannot supply even most of basic service is nothing but failed municipality. It does not make sense how a non-governmental organization such as Gift of Givers should step in the shoes of the municipality and supply.
Honourable Klaas, can you please take your seat? Please take your seat. Honourable Saleko, is that a point of order?
Yes, Speaker, I would just like to know if Member Klaas is willing to take a question.
Please take your seat. Honourable Klaas. Order members. Honourable Klaas, I need to ask you the question. Are you prepared to take a question?
No.
You're not. Honourable Saleko, Honourable Klaas is not prepared to take a question. Honourable Klaas, please take your seat. Honourable Klaas, please take your seat. Honourable Chief Whip, is that a point of order?
Yes, it is a point of order, Speaker. Honorable Seleko answered your question when you asked him, is that a point of order? And he said yes. And immediately he asked a question and you gave him that opportunity. He misled this House. I want you to roll on that.
Thank you, Honourable Chief Whip. I'll revert to Hansard because the way I understand it is Honourable Seleko asked me to ask the Honourable Klaas if he was prepared to take a question. And he then said no. But in the interest of moving forward, I'll revert to Hansard and I'll come back to the House. Honourable Klaas, please continue.
The situation in Matsikama evidence that the DA does not care about the interest and needs of the poor, as the party and its government structure only concern themselves with the protection white people who reside in Cape Metro and Stellenbosch. Having said that, I would like the minister to respond to the following question. What is Matsikama municipality doing to improve its water infrastructure so that people can receive adequate water?
The time is not expired.
No, it's not yet expired. The other things that we were there in Matsikama, we know very well. They were assisted by the community. And that community also will need their benefit after that. If that community said that we cannot work there because they themselves, what will happen? That is why I said the minister must check on that and make sure they return the money of the community because it will demand that bridge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Klaas. I recognize the Honourable Maran for your second opportunity.
Thanks very much, Speaker. And the Honourable Zeleko was with us on that oversight visit. He was with us. He spoke about reservoirs that overflow. We were told that reservoirs are empty. Farmers told us that they got the infrastructure, they are willing to assist the municipality to pump water out of the river and to fill up those reservoirs. It's empty. He spoke about a pipeline. That pipeline was repaired by the community. Whilst the municipality and the province were fighting about whose road is it, Whose pipes is it? The community repair those roads. And at the end of the day, they were told or find out that the road belongs to the municipality. We were told by farmers that they are willing to invest in some of the infrastructure, but there's some resistance from the municipality. They don't want that assistance. And members of the DA were there. I'm not sure where they come and speak different here, Seleko. Speaker, through you, the lives of our people were heavily affected. Ordinary tasks such as cooking, bathing, cleaning, including water for the use of ablution facilities were heavily affected. Elderly people at the homes, at home patients were also severely affected by the situation. But not a word of apology from the DA. In fact, what they told us, one of the councillors in their meetings is saying that it's because of people that stays in the squatter camps, Africans. It's because of them, the influx. That's the cause of this water problem. There's too many people in. Your councillor, they know. They were there. They were there. I will tell you afterwards. You can send me a written
Honourable
question.
Moran, please take your seat. Honourable Chief Whip,
Speaker,
what's your point of order? Is that a point of order?
Speaker, may I address you?
Yes, you
The
may.
honourable member is engaging in dialogue and keeps on referring to the members on the other side. May I please ask that the member address you? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honourable Moran, can I please remind you to speak to me, and can I please remind the members on my right-hand side that you cannot go into dialogue with a member on the floor and that you cannot drown out the speaker.
Thanks, Speaker. It's your MEC that provoked me. But through you, Speaker, die waarheid maak seer. This province, yeah, Klute.
Order,
Daveen Klute.
order, members.
That's the name, Daveen Klute. That's the name. Yes. And they know. I'm not sure why they are not willing to tell you who their council is. This provincial government pushes for more powers for provinces, yet they cannot exercise the very basic powers that it already has. The provincial government speaks about, I had to call it into order in that meeting, Chairperson. You were chairing that particular meeting. The provincial government speaks about load shedding, having an effect on the provincial economy, but cases very little about the devastating effect this water crisis in Matsikama had on the local economy of the municipality. Businesses suffer tremendously under the DA's water crisis. Yet, what this crisis confirms is that the DA was responsible for the water crisis in Cape Town. They still charge poor people a water levy, as well as the 2-3 years ago. We know that already in 2007, a year after the DA took power in the city of Cape Town, Mayor Helen Zille's administration was informed of the looming drought. As in Matsikama, the DA did nothing for more than 10 years, knowing full well that the
Honourable
drought was...
Moran, please conclude. Your time has expired.
The ANC wishes to thank the South African Municipal Workers Union for the role they've played in the water crisis in Matsikama. The ANC
Thank you
wishes
very much,
to
Honourable.
acknowledge that
Thank
the
you.
people of Matsikama,
Thank you
of the
very
Western
much,
Cape and
Honourable
South Africa
Moran.
must know
Honourable Moran,
this
please take your seat. Honourable members, I do not need your assistance to chair the session. If you have a point of order, please do so, but can you please? Honourable members, I have it's no issue for me to remain here until we complete the order of the day or the business of the day. With that being said, Honourable Mr. Bredell.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, always astonished how the ANC will stand up in this House and try to badmouth the DA and where the national government is so corrupt and they steal everything from the poorest of the poor. The sabotage in Matsikama, it's maybe the biggest issue of all that we're busy dealing with. Honourable Christians is spot on. There's a lot of sabotage. There's a mass number in the SAPS police. We've got the Hawks in now to investigate, and we allow that investigation to go its course. I'm not going to pull that into a political discussion, but I'm very worried because there's definitely sabotage. Our one engineer, and the question what we've done, we've sent 5 engineers to Matsikama. That's how serious we think this is, and we wanted to solve this as soon as possible. I've never mentioned larva, but we want the powers. If we as a DA government had the powers to plan the water and networks of this province, I can tell you we will get it right going forward. But we've got a 15-year integrated water and drought plan that now needs implementation. I can tell you the DA councils will implement it, but I can tell you what's in a couple of years, what's going to happen with the water quality in Knysna, in TWK, in Central Karoo, in Beaufort West, and the common factor is the ANC governs there. They don't care about the poor, because they know if the poor suffer, they will vote for them for the shameless 350 Rand grant. That's why. And they want to keep people captured so that they can suck out the votes out of them. The people are not stupid. They might be poor, but they're not stupid. This government's doing everything possible when we take over from the ANC to rectify the neglect of infrastructure. The ANC governed Matsikama. They've never spent a cent on infrastructure. That's why the people sit with asbestos pipes. We will poison them if we don't solve them. That's the member. Don't tell this house. They don't tell it to the public. We don't play politics with this. We're there to serve the people. The people's got a right to a dignified life. To have a dignified life, you need water, and we will provide that water. We put tankers out there. We pull in even the mine and the private sector to come and help us. At the stage we said, we cannot, we need you. And they stepped up and they helped us, and we're grateful for that. We will keep on. And 2024, coming 2024, the voters will vote us back because they know we're a caring government. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Minister Bradell. Honourable members, that's the end of interpellation number 2. You in fact did lose me because you're not adhering to my request. So continue. That brings us to the end of interpellation 2. Honourable members, we now move on to Rule 202, on questions for oral reply as printed on the question paper. I wish to remind honourable members that there's 4 opportunities for follow-up questions. The first opportunity will be provided to the person posing the initial question. For those members on the online platform, please indicate online if you wish to ask a follow-up question, and to the members present in the chamber, please indicate so that the table staff can note your request for a follow-up question. I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you very much to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for the question. Point A, sorry, you need to refer this question to the Provincial Standing Committee on the Premier and Constitutional Matters, which initiated the bill, and B, none.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. I recognize the Honourable Dugmore.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I would just, as a follow-up, like to ask the Premier that, given when I asked him a question without notice some time back in the legislature, he mentioned an advocate bishop and he mentioned various other names. And given that you did mention advocate bishop,
but please pose your question.
Could you please explain why, after having told us that advocate bishop was one of the people involved, why in your response today are you now referring this to the honorable chairperson of the standing committee in this regard? And are you thus denying
You are only allowed one follow-up question as per the rules,
to
so that
summarize,
you,
my question is,
you,
given that the Premier responded and said Advocate Bishop was involved, in his response today, why is he then referring to this matter to Honourable Fry when it is clear that Honourable Fry had nothing to do with this bill, but
Thank
just
you.
given it?
Thank you very much, Honourable Dagmar. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the follow-up. I did mention that it was in the questions to the Premier because I have met that advocate once in my life, and I know that he was involved in some way. This is not a bill coming from the executive. The honourable member knows that.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable members, are there any further follow-up questions? I recognize the Honourable Fry.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I would like to ask the Premier, given our discussion on AGOA, what would he, and the fact that the bill specifically outlines a devolution of trade, including international trade, what would he do differently even than what the national government is doing now in refer to international trade and creating jobs? Because the national government is clearly not doing that very well.
Thank you very much. That the last part of that is not a question, that's a statement. I'm going to disregard that, Premier. The question posed.
Thank you. Thank you to the Honourable Fry. Obviously, I mean, I follow the process of this bill. I welcome the concept of this bill. And this bill is creating a framework in which a province is starting to set up how it should behave when the national government fails to serve its citizens in whichever way. So whether it's trade or policing or the harbour, we know right now that the agricultural growth in our province has got 20% increase on last year's production, which has got to go through the very same harbour, which the very same national government runs. I'm so worried about that at the end of the year because, quite frankly, in the financial situation we find ourselves, we need to make sure that we are growing our economy. And how do we do that best? We bring in foreign direct investment or foreign trade. That's what we should be doing. And so, you know, this is the kind of bill that I really would welcome. So I hope, and we should speed through the committee process so that we could be enabled to take over more powers if they fail to deliver on those powers at a national government level.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable Dagmar. No, it's Honourable Dagmar and then Honourable Maran, and that's the end of that question.
Advocate Leroux and also a legal intern have both described this bill as being unresearched, not consistent with the Constitution. I would like to ask the Premier directly, is he aware that the DA was actually behind the drafting of the bill? Does he have any information at his disposal that the DA was involved in drafting this bill?
Thank you very much, Honourable Dagmar. Honourable Premier.
The legal advice to the committee says one thing, and am I aware? Well, I want to say that, quite frankly, this bill is residing in the committee that I presume the honourable member sits, so you should be able to answer that question without asking me. I'm looking forward to this bill being dealt with because I believe it creates the correct environment for us to move forward as a country where the ANC is failing dismally.
Thank you very much. Honourable Dagmar, you had an opportunity. It's now the opportunity of Honourable Maran.
Thanks, Speaker. Advocate Leroux, when he comment on the legal opinion, Advocate Maasdorp said the subject of this powers bill is not the legislative competence of the province. He goes further to say the province cannot make a law on the subject matter of the powers bill.
What's your question?
That's your laws, not mine. Yours. There was a
Honourable Maran, can you please close your question?
There was a legal opinion by Advocate Maasdorp. There was a note. There was a note by Advocate Leroux. There was a
Honourable members, Honourable Maran.
The question to the Premier.
Please ask your question.
Given the fact there are two advocates and a intern, Mr. Sibeko. Yes, basically, as we can put it, rejected. Will you get another legal opinion from another legal advisor? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier.
So I don't know how long the Honourable Member Moran has been a member of
Order.
this House of the Standing Committees, but he obviously still doesn't understand that the lawyers
Order.
are not our lawyers. This is the government side, and our lawyers are not involved in this whatsoever. It's the committee's lawyers. It is the committee's lawyers. So the Honourable Member, Mr. Speaker, does not have a clue as to what's going on.
Honourable Premier, please take your seat. Honourable Moran, you posed the question to the Premier. The Premier is responding to your question, but you are in dialogue with Minister Mackenzie. Or can I please, Premier? Honourable Minister Mackenzie? Honourable members, I've previously asked and I've previously warned, and this will be the final warning because you are drowning out the speaker and you are affecting the decorum of the House. Honourable Premier, you may continue.
Thank you very much. So as I was saying, the Honourable Moran obviously doesn't have a clue as to what goes on here. It is not a government-initiated bill that ends up in the committee. This is a committee-initiated bill, and an opinion is an opinion. And of course, the committee must do their work. I hope that they finish that work and they get it to me so that I can sign off on it, because I think it's a great idea that we actually start to take powers away from failed ANC departments who cannot deliver to the citizens of this province. Just think, imagine if this province could get grants to citizens, how efficient it would be. Those citizens who are supposed to receive their SASSA grants, and that's what they live on. And guess what the national minister does? Go, oh, sorry, and moves on. That is totally unacceptable. We need to be able to take over those powers when the national government, that member's party, fails the citizens of this province. Whether it's SASSA, a port, the policing, there are a range of areas where this province should be able to step in. So I really wish the committee well, and in getting this legislation into a
Honourable
piece of
Premier,
legislation
my
that
apologies.
to me.
Please take your seat. Honourable Chief Whip.
Speaker, I rise on rules 39 and 40. It cannot be that members do not have any disregard for the rules of this House. The Premier is responding. You did give us a fair warning early on in the sitting. Can you kindly respond? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Whip. And as I've indicated before I allowed the Premier to respond, that was the final warning. I will now move over to naming members, and the next process of the rules will be applied. Honourable Premier, you may continue. Thank you very much. The Honourable Premier is completed. We will now move on to question 2 that was stood over from the 31st of August 2023 as agreed to by the House, and I recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister Mbombo.
Thank you for the question. The question is about critical operations. So for our understanding, the critical operations means emergency operations. So there have never been any postponement on critical stroke emergency operations. However, elective surgeries, there have been some of those that have been postponed. Just to illustrate, using the data same time in August 2022 and August 2023, last year we had 1,346 elective surgeries. This year, 1,131, meaning there's been a decrease of those surgeries by 215. And most of the decrease happened during the taxi strike, which is about 16% decrease. So these are the elective surgeries. And you asked the question about what types of operations. It's a total hip and knee replacement, arthroplasty, orthopedic spinal operations, and other types of orthopedic operations, cataract, ophthalmology, and other ophthalmology operations, urology operations, ears, nose, and throat, gynecology, neurosurgery, pediatric, breast and endocrine operations, plastic surgery, abnormal surgery, cardio, thoracic surgery, transplant surgery, maxillofacial surgery, and other operations of more than 30 minutes. Others are less than 30 minutes. So these are the elective surgeries, not critical or emergency operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise the Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Minister, for the reply. Just, you know, I think people were very concerned with the taxi strike, and all hospitals were affected with surgeries. Just a question. So, just a normal question. So, all the surgeries now, is it, you know, on time? Is it no postponement of any surgeries? I know we spoke about the emergency ones, but I'm just asking, is everything now according to order? Because I know that the people were talking about, you know, the lives of our nurses, lives of our doctors, and those type of things. So it was impacted. But I just want to know, according to your books, is all the surgeries done according to the appointments given by the patients, by the doctor to the patients? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. Honourable Minister.
For the elective surgeries, we still continue with the list. But there are other times, through you, Speaker, that we will find that sometimes we have to delay, especially now we are on stage 6. Load shedding, and in as much as that we have got generators and the backup system, but even if it's even a second or two, when we have to transfer from the energy to the backup, it does impact on some of the other devices, for example, with the radiotherapy, nuclear, and all of those. So you may be able to continue at the time that there's a load shedding, but it will impact for the list. So the list gets delayed, but we are not postponing elective surgeries. But with a critical emergency, you can't, because you are saving lives with the emergencies.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise the Honourable Marais on the hybrid sitting.
Thank you so much, Chair. Minister, are you sure that, I don't know where the taxi strike crept into this question, because it doesn't form part of the question. You just say how many critical operations have been postponed. Are you sure the taxi strike is the real reason and not unavailability of funds and availability of suitably qualified staff? This to me is vital. Can't have an operation if you don't have the surgeons, and you can't have surgery if there's not relevantly trained nurses for the aftercare of these patients. So are you sure that all these postponements for critical operations was due to strikes and not funds or staff availability?
Thank you very much, Honourable Marais. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Member Marais. I repeat, there has been no postponement of critical and emergency operation, even during the taxi strike. But when we use the proxy of how many elective operations we did in August 2022 versus August 2023, there's been a decrease of 215. That's what we're trying to imply. These are elective surgeries, but not the emergency or the critical operations. Having said that, in August, we did have transplant. Actually, even during at the time that we had a staff shortage during the strike, despite that we had 215 cases less in August 23, where I think 5 people benefited from one person who donated the body. I'm saying it's one person there. I don't want to say he or she, that it had to be done, conducting about 30-hour operation in order to be able to harvest the organs that had benefited the people. So, Member Marais, I'm saying that we are using a proxy of August 2022 and August 2023, where we had 215 cases short. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable Class, the last two opportunities is Mr. Member Pretorius and Member Christians. So unfortunately, there's not another opportunity. Honourable Pretorius.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, through you to the Minister. Minister, going forward, the budget cuts experienced this year and the anticipated budget cuts that lie ahead of us, would that have any impact and effect on elective surgery and critical surgery? Thank you. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Pretorius. Honourable Minister.
Post-COVID, we made a commitment to try to get more of going back in terms of the surgical backlogs that we had during the COVID. We even added 20 million more rands. Plus, also we bought a robotics, Da Vinci robotics, in order to do surgeries in terms of using the IT. I think both of them cost 80 million for both. For each, for Tigerberg and also for the Grooteskier, which actually it made it possible for the patients not to stay longer in hospital. They get discharged, meaning that at least they could be able to take more other patients since the others have to not to stay long post-operatively. However, in the new year, this year, beginning of the year, 1.5 billion short from the provincial equitable share, coming from the National Treasury and also some of the conditional grants. It meant, and without even considering the baseline, especially even specific around even the inflation, it meant that we have to, again, to revamp, coming up with other ways of making sure that we still have to deliver. Of course, Member Pretorius, it will have a huge impact because remember, as I indicated, that we're on stage 6 load shedding, of which is the three of the main ones, which is the Red Cross Hospital, Children's Hospital, the Tigerberg, and the Grooteskier. They've been exempted up to stage 6. So we don't know when there's something about there might be stage 7. It means it does have a huge impact. But also what is important is about the generators, the diesel. So expensive, the diesel that comes with it, plus also the inverters, the batteries that we install in primary clinics. There's no new money, meaning we take the money that is already supposed to be paying for the services, also for the employing the staff in order to do what we do. So we're trying by all means to rob Paul and pay Pauline, but it's difficult. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. And the last opportunity, Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, just for Member Marais' information, I took this because I saw the article, taxi strike takes heavy toll on hospital and EMS services. That's why I'm the author of the question. I don't know why is he asking question
Honourable
on that.
Christian, please oppose your question.
The question is the minister just mentioned about the load setting. I want to know solar panels. When will that be installed at hospitals? Because you've just mentioned, the impact on diesel. Because I think the Premier said something about solar panels, that we're not dependent on Eskom. So now you say we as hospitals will be affected when it's stage 6 load setting. Can you give us an indication for the solar panels for hospitals so that, it's needed? So what is your thinking and timelines around that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Christian. Honourable Minister.
Okay, it's not necessarily part of the question, therefore I might not have the correct answer, but what I know, the commitment we made, I think it's about 16 solar panels, it's about 121, the battery inverters mostly in the rural primary care clinics, which is we have done, I think, part of those for the rural clinics. I've been in the garden route where I've seen, like now I'm coming from Retreat. They don't have a solar panel. They've got a generator, which actually now gets affected because there's a whole mixture of diesel and so forth. And so in regard to solar panel, the last time that I did oversight was at the Red Cross, where they were busy with that part of it. but in some other areas they are doing that. And in also in parallel, for example, Khayelitsha, which is also the biggest district hospital, where they agreed, it also forms part of the whole of the Khayelitsha grid. We have negotiated with the ESCOM so that they could be able to do the diversion, because if it's, so that they could be exempted, because it's not exempted. So, but they are busy with that, which is they're going to invoice us, because we have to pay that part of when they have to divert from one power station to the other, so that we can be able to be off the grid from the community to be part of this. So we're doing as much as we can. We still continue despite it, but as I mentioned, irrespective, even if you have got a backup system, a few seconds in between when we move, it impacts the whole computer system will reboot. When it gets rebooted, it means that there will be some of the disturbance in some of the interventions, like in the nuclear or radiology and all of those. So we just, but what we are hoping for, that at least we could be able to assist us to, is about at least the national government should be able to help us with the diesel, with all of this, because we are taking the same money, as I indicated, that 1.5 billion short. And if you've seen on the news, in terms of that, the country might not have money. And the first people who are going to be affected, the sector is going to be health, because we're the only ones mostly operate 24 hours to save the lives of the people. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, that concludes question 2 that stood over from Thursday, the 31st of August. We will now move on to question 2 under new questions. That's just for record. And I recognise the Honourable Minister, Minister Simmers.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and through you, thank you to the member for the question. Member, the A part of our response is as follows. The Department of Infrastructure has certified payments totaling 301,500,847.65 up to and including the 31st of August 2023 on education infrastructure on behalf of the Western Cape Education Department in the following expenditure categories, which leads me to the B part of your question. A full list of the projects that are assigned against existing WCG schools as per the 4 sub-programs, and the details will be made available to the member, but here is a complete list, Honourable Speaker. It consists of upgrades and additions. There's 25 projects, preventative scheduled maintenance, which is 118 projects across the province, hostel maintenance, it's 11 projects, and then corrective maintenance, which is 77 projects. These amount to, in terms of the maintenance component, 287 million, and then upgrades and additions, 23 million, which gives you the total allocation of 301,500,847.65 cents. The second component of your B part, Honourable Member, the projects are allocated in terms of sub-programs which are funded by the WCED in terms of the Infrastructure Program Management Plan, or the IPMP, for which the budgets are as follows. Sub-program upgrades and additions, it's 99 million. Sub-program preventative or scheduled maintenance is 686 million. Hostel maintenance is 5 million, and corrective maintenance is 10 million, which gives you a total allocation in terms of the sub-programs of just over 800 million rand. The C part of your question, Honourable Member, is that my department is not the budget holder for education infrastructure allocations. The Western Cape Education Department is the budget holder and allocates funds over the MTF to my department and the other implementing agents. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise the Honourable Maseko.
Thank you very much, Minister, and that really is good news about all the money that is being spent for education. But I just want to find out, to what an extent has construction mafia or the extortion impacted on any of these projects? And if that is the case, that it's happening, what are the relevant details to that?
Thank you very much, Honourable Maseko. Honourable Minister.
Thanks to you, Honourable Speaker, and to the member. Well, I did list the number of projects we have, and it's quite a number of projects across the province. I can say that all of our projects are actually on schedule, which does mean there's been no massive impact in terms of the construction mafia in these projects, because we do have a preventative program of action as a Department of Action in collaboration with the relevant
local municipalities, together with the local host communities and all other relevant stakeholders where we do have these projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable Member Kama.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think the first request, Speaker, will be that we all receive the list. But my follow-up, Speaker, I'm reminded of a memorandum from the Rocklands of these infrastructure upgrades. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kama. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I can confirm through you to the member, the Rockland School, which the Honourable Member alludes to, is not part of our work schedule that we do have and have received from the Department of Education. So I think that is relevant to the Department of Education's own assigned contractor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Members, are there any further follow-up questions? It does not seem so. That concludes question 2. We now move on to question number 3, and I recognize the Honourable Minister, Minister Fernandez.
Honourable Speaker, I'd like to thank the Honourable de Villiers for the question. The reply to the question is the program Services to People with Disabilities provides subsidies to 109 non-profit organizations, NPOs, providing services to persons with mental and intellectual disability. Supported services include the following. We have 21 residential care facilities providing 24-hour residential care to persons with intellectual disabilities, and the funded total amount is 31,922,280 rand. We have 8 NPOs providing social work and other therapeutic interventions funded for the amount of 13,840,692 rand. There are 19 protective workshops providing rehabilitation services and exposure to world of work with a total funded amount of just over 11 million rand. We have 61 daycare centers providing daytime supervised care, stimulation, structured programs and activities with a total funded amount of 24,742,105 rand. Over and above the mentioned support services, most funded old age homes from the Older Persons Program admit persons diagnosed with dementia. Furthermore, the department has its own residential care center called Sibuyeli for persons with profound physical and intellectual disabilities. It accommodates 110 children and adults, and the services at Sibuyeli include healthcare, occupational therapy, education, inclusion in protective workshops, and various developmental programs. Residents also receive psychiatric support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognize the Honourable de Villiers.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Thank you for the reply, MEC. The province desperately needs an overhaul of its mental health policy to prevent this issue from becoming a major crisis. A 2021 report by South African Human Rights Commission on mental health listed the following. We are incapable of offering quality services. The policy is not implemented, underinvestment in mental health care, and limited reliable and dignified access to mental health care. My follow-up question is, what is our plans to speak to these challenges that we do face?
Thank you, Honourable de Villiers. Honourable Minister.
Speaker, in terms of legislation, I think that question should be directed to the Department of Health and Wellness. But I can say that the Department of Health and Wellness convenes a mental health transversal work group that coordinates DSD, DCAS, WCED, and other departments to develop an area-based response to mental health needs. DSD also works closely with the Health and Wellness Department on the mental health projects and co-funds various intellectually disabled residential facilities and daycare centers. However, the one big constraint in terms of mental health, and I think, Speaker, it is very important for this House to note, is the implication of budget cuts and the fact that we cannot expand our services at this stage within DSD, and I'm pretty certain it applies to all government departments. So we wait and see what happens, and once we get that news, we will then have to realign and revisit what are considered priorities, what is statutory requirements, and where it is we need to focus our efforts. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, are there any further follow-up questions? Does not seem so. I recognise the Honourable Murray, saved by the bell. Honourable Murray.
There is, Speaker.
Thank you.
Okay, Honourable Baka Force, you did not give an indication, or I was not informed. There we go. Now I recognise you. So in that order, Honourable Murray and then Honourable Baka Force.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister, what is these people who you say that your department care for, are you still considering continuing with having these people, shall I say, cared for outside institutions, or are they still being institutionalized? Because I know during my term, we tried, as minister in your position, we moved the people outside of being cooped up in facilities, state facilities, but cared for as outpatients. Are you still doing that, or are they still internally into the system looked after?
Thank you, Honourable Murray. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Marie. I think to answer the question, the level of disability determines whether the client is institutionalized or not. Because if someone is not severely disabled or intellectually impaired, that would free up a bed for someone who requires it. However, that requires a medical assessment. So at this point in time, the question was, my responses were in terms of the Honourable de Villiers' question, and I was referring to all our funded institutions at this point. So there are facilities that offer day care, but that is done through the Department of Health and Wellness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognise the Honourable Baka Force.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Minister, I would like to ask this following question. I would like to get an understanding from the MEC if your department is playing any role to support victims of crime such as rape who are in need of psychosocial support service. Is the department support staff in any way to provide psychologists and social workers to assist victims of crime? If not, why not? And if so, what are the relevant details? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Baka Force. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Baka Force. DSD social workers are trained to provide psychosocial support, whether in shelters or at local offices. This includes counselling services. However, clients who need psychological and psychiatric services are referred accordingly. Funding remains a challenge in both the public and NPO sectors in general. In the GBV space, DSD has changed the funding model to service providers that allows for more flexibility in the utilization of the funds they receive. A multidisciplined approach along with public-private partnerships is vital to providing a continuum of care needed by victims of GBV. Therefore, we work hard at establishing and maintaining relationships with other government departments such as health, SAPS, justice, and the NPO sector, along with community structures. Through the Thuthuzela Care Centres, we also provide one-stop shop services in healthcare facilities for victims of gender-based violence. Thuthuzela Care Centres are open 24 hours a day so that women who have suffered physical violence can access a safe and dignified space to receive healthcare and the necessary treatment. Apart from treating any health needs, TCCs also link with DSD for social support and SAPS for further investigation of abuse cases. There are currently 8 of these centres in the Western Cape. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, are there any further follow-up questions? If not, we then move on to, that brings us to the end of that question. Question 3, we move on to question 4 as printed on the question paper, and I recognise the Honourable Minister, Minister Mbombo.
Thank you for the question. In regard to the Westphalia Hospital, it's part of the 2030 bed plan to have a 150-bed hospital. It's part of that. However, that is a long term, and also even if you'll build this hospital tomorrow, the issue of the service pressures there, they require immediate intervention. If they having a new hospital now, it won't solve the pressures. So that's why we've already did some of the work in terms of the short term and medium term. The service pressures, we know that the surrounding the Westphalia Hospital will have the feeder areas of primary healthcare clinics, which is the Protea Park, the Section C, the VetSense that does it on a weekly basis, the Pella, and those 3 are city clinics. And then you have the Mamre CDC, which is a provincial one. So what we have done now is about, by the way, the issue of the 3 city clinics, they don't offer adult curative service. It means that the adults have to go to the hospital for some of the conditions that were supposed to have been managed at the clinic. But their clinic only offers for child and minor ailments for the adults. So it's one of the reasons that it causes more pressures. And then it ended up the hospital doing both. I normally make an example when I speak to the Auntie Sarahs that a hospital is supposed to be like a high school. And then we have got the foundation primary school or higher primary school that feed to it. But currently with the first floor is about, it also has to work like a primary school because some of the, as I indicated earlier. So what we have done so far, which is together with the city, with the city of Cape Town, Protea Park now will be graduated, upgraded from being a clinic to a community day center, which we have already started. Already there is a for adult curative. Already now there's a full-time doctor who does the adults. Already some of the patients who used to go to the Westphalia Hospital for their chronics, now we've taken the folders, now they are being seen at the Protea. And also we will keep on gradually extending the whole package of a CDC that includes psychosocial, because you need the social, the physiotherapy, the occupational, and also the eye and everything what the CDC has to be. And also in addition to that, some of the patients in Section C were taking ARVs, for example, going all the way to the hospital. Now the whole of those patients now they are back to the Section C, but we have gradually also providing more additional staff. However, noting Protea Park, because it's being upgraded to a CDC, it needs an approval by the Pharmacy Council in order to have a pharmacy. So the process is there in regard to that aspect of it. Staffing, whilst doing all this process, which we need to be completed by the Feb 2024 as the commitment we did with the city on their services. We have already appointed doctors, we have already appointed like family physician, the medical specialists, which at this stage, they might not necessarily physically stations at these clinics, but they are being accommodated at the Westphalia Hospital. So we mustn't only look at the hospital, we must look at the whole of the health system package that is happening in the whole Atlantis, starting from the Mamre within our provincial facility up to all others that are coming in throughout. In addition to this, we have made sure also we've got wellness hub. We talk about now hospital without walls, health on wheels, where they are in the immediate 24 space, others in the resource center, especially during the time, for example, the time of pension grant payouts. People don't have to go all the way to these facilities. So you can open up some of these places and then the staff can come in and the people can be able to to get all their services. Taking note that Atlantis has got a Tutuzela center for the whole of this area, because I know Victoria is in the southern, for the whole of the western, even the Atlantis, and also part of the other areas outside, like in the Durbanville, they use the Tutuzela center in the Westphalia Hospital. So we're doing as much as we can so that we offer the whole package, and we do understand that it's the services previously were not supposed to be where they were, what was happening. But that's why we have to do gradually the pressures. And when the City of Cape Town Council approve that now they are handing over those clinics to us, which was, I think it was the end May, that's when things started to happen. But by February 2024, the whole package will be already been completed. But we can't wait for 2030 in terms of the new hospital. Some other things that are happening, like the linen room, that is already, I think the contractor is already there on site. They were already extending part of the records, is already happening. Because it's an old hospital, you get sometimes in the toilets where they are faulty, there's always full-time contract around that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. The first follow-up, Honourable de Villiers.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Minister, yeah, we are aware and we appreciate the work that has been done there. What I want to say, there's over 70,000 people in residents in Atlantis, and we do have a 28-bed hospital over there. In a statement to the residents in February 2021, the DA councillor and then sub-council chair Laura Cross, when asked about the availability of particular parcel of land for housing, said that the land was available as it had been, was unavailable as it had been allocated for a hospital.
Honourable de Villiers, can I remind you that you are allowed a follow-up question? Can you get to the question?
I'm getting this,
okay.
Honourable Speaker. All right. My follow-up question is that, do you have any short-term intervention plans to appoint a hospital board to help with this, or committees, which to my knowledge have still not been advertised?
Thank you very much, Honourable de Villiers. Honourable Minister.
When we started the process, 16 August 2022, the process now that I've just mentioned now, there was an appointed hospital board. There were also clinic committees that were appointed as a cluster for all the clinics there. But now, because we wanted to zoom on this process and borrowing on some of the approaches we did, when we did Krabo CHC, it's the same approach. So we undertook that the community needs to give us the names of the people who will be part of our metro team, which is going to be chaired by Dr. Perez as the chief director for the whole of the metro. Although the southern and western, the director who's in charge for that is Dr. Grammer. So we ended up having those names. And then we said, now, because we wanted to have these kind of conversations throughout, for them also making us account, but also we wanted the process to run smooth up to where things were. So we put the boards on hold so that we can be able to finish the process. So this last month when I was there, so we did, with a report, it was indicated now the task has been completed. Now it's up to at the local level where community could be able to conduct oversight. Therefore, we will open up now for the process of people to be appointed to clinic committees, to the hospital boards. So it's us who took the initiative at the time in August that let's put them on hold. But if anyone already being part of the board wants to be part of the task team, but it's up to the community. So that's where things are. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I recognize the Honourable Marais, then Bakubako Force, and then Pretorius, and that will bring us to the end of that question.
Thank you, Speaker. Minister, you were talking about clinics as an offset point to help relieve the pressure on Westphalia. But clinics can't handle trauma cases. You will agree with me. Trauma is something, a specialized medical function. You'll have to transfer those people either to Grooteskies or you'll have to transfer them to Somerset Hospital nearest. Is that part of your broad plan? By the time they get there, they would have died already. What is your plan intermediary to that for trauma cases? Because this is my last time to a last question, I suppose. Have you considered making an agreement with private hospitals along the way to stabilize patients before they are moved to Grooteskies or Somerset, instead of them having to go through thick traffic from Atlantis with trauma cases that need urgent medical assistance, which clinics, as you pointed out, you are making use of, cannot handle?
Honourable Marais. Honourable Marais.
Sorry, yes, Speaker.
We've lost you there, so can you please just pose your question to the Minister?
Oh, must I start from the start, sir?
No, you must just pose your question. I've allowed some latitude.
Okay.
Like I always do, but I was going to call you to get to the question, and then we've lost you. So can you just pose your question to the Minister?
Thank you. Would you consider having a plan, a different plan, how to handle trauma cases? Because clinics can't handle trauma. You either got to take them to Grooteskies or to Somerset Hospital as state patients. Is there another plan that you could perhaps ask private hospitals on the way to stabilize the patients, so that otherwise it will be a loss? You can all the way from Atlantis to Grooteskies, the patient will die along the way.
Thank you, Honourable Marie. I think the Minister got the question. Thank you.
But Atlantis has got a Westphalia hospital, the district hospital level 1 that offers all the packages. So it's not about that because it has a fewer beds. It doesn't offer, it offers whole packages. But what we are trying to highlight was that in addition to being a hospital, it also has to offer other packages that are supposed to be offered at a lower level. So the emergency, the safeguard specialists, the forensic, radiology, every package that is there at a level 1 hospital, it is there, the emergency are there. And then for the referral, of course, they refer to New Somerset Hospital, but it's a Westphalia Hospital, the whole package, the emergency, they are there, it's happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable Bakubako Force.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I would like to ask the Minister the following question, or this follow-up question. In respect of infrastructure plans of the department in Atlantis, the department is undertaking infrastructure upgrade as Westphalia Hospital, and over 1.6 million have been spent since 2019, and yet no construction work has commenced. I fear another situation of GF Worcester Hospital, where the complaints of this department is causing dead people. I want to ask from the Minister, what are the department's plan to prevent any further delays on this project and ensure that it does not become another ghost? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Bakubako Force. Honourable Minister.
Thank you. It's a two things. Whilst in any hospital, just like even in Tiger Park, whilst you're still going to build a new hospital as part of the plan, but you cannot allow the infrastructure of the existing ones to be debilitated. So it means that you have to keep on maintaining it. Otherwise, you'll end up falling or whatever. So the new plan for the new hospital within the 2030 health plan, it might not necessarily be in the same site. I think member de Villiers did indicate in terms of some sites that were identified and all of those. So it might not necessarily the 1 point whatever, it's about a new hospital. It's about what is happening. And you recall that I once opened extension of the new new EC there, and also the pediatric ward that's there. And I've even mentioned now that some of the infrastructures that are happening is the issue of the linen room, the hospital records room, and all of the above. So it's the same thing in Tygerberg. Whilst the existing Tygerberg is there, and also we are building another Tygerberg regional hospital, but you still have to maintain the existing ones because it's similar. Helderberg, we've got plan for the Helderberg, we've got a plan for the Swartland Hospital that was banned, which the site is not going to be there, but you still have to fix the one where you are because it's being utilized by the people. So you cannot make a comparison. With the JOST, it's completely different. It's about the hospital that was decommissioned because of the condition, and now we have to build a new hospital. But in this case, it's about where you have to maintain the building. You don't want the building to collapse whilst you are using it just because you'll be building towards 2020, 30, and so forth. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. And the last opportunity to Honourable Pretorius.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, to the Minister through you, Minister, with the handover of the clinics in Atlantis, how will that, and being mindful of budget constraints, how will that strengthen, impact, or improve healthcare in the area?
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Over to you.
Last month, there was so much excitement coming from the community that at last this is happening, because that's what actually they also have been encouraging us to do. But as I indicated, that in as much as that you'll want to take over immediately, because indeed it doesn't mean that if City of Cape Town had resources, they will have upgraded or they will have graduated like a Protea Park to CDC. But it takes a whole processes, as I made an example, that you need a pharmacy, a dispensary, chemist within, as because part of the CDC, and it has to meet certain requirements, and there should be a pharmacist who has to manage it. Whereas in a clinic, we just dispense in our own rooms. If there is a dispensary there, it's just for us to collect our medicine and then we put it in our consulting rooms. That is a clinic, and also we can only do it up to Schedule 4, which is like the amoxicillin, penicillin kind of the antibiotics. But with a CDC, where it will need a pharmacist is because it has to also provide chronic medication for hypertension, for cancer, and all of those, as it will be prescribed by the full-time doctors that are supposed to be there. Therefore, Member Pretorius, it means that the patients now that used to go to all the way to Westphalia and then wait longest because they will have been deemed as green patients, that they are not emergency, where they'll be prioritizing red patients, which is the emergency. Now they don't have to go there. At least now they could be able to come to their nearest clinics, and also they could be able to have appointment system, because you don't have to come early. If you're going to be seen by the doctor, you're going to pick up your medicine at 2 o'clock, and you don't even have to pick them up at your clinic. As I indicated, that we have created some hubs around the communities so that you could be able to pick it up. So we find that there's been a relief, and they are so excited about it. But as I'm saying, that it's a phased approach, because remember, these are clinics that are under the city. So we have made it open for the people to apply. Anyone can apply within or even outside. So there's a whole excitement in the Atlantis, as even been shared by the communities themselves. Thanks.
Thank you very much, honourable members and honourable minister. Honourable members, that concludes question number 4 on the question paper. I recognise the Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, in respect to questions 5, 6 and 7, the Honourable Minister has tendered an apology for the sitting due to him attending the MINMAC in the Northwest Province. Both members posing the questions have been engaged. I therefore move that questions 5, 6 and 7 please stand over. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chief Whip. Honourable members, just for noting, question 5, 6 and 7 will be standing over. I now recognise the Honourable Minister of Mobility, Minister Mackenzie, for question 8 as printed on the question paper.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Allow me to first point out that the regulation of the taxi industry is a concurrent responsibility of all spheres of government. To effectively regulate the minibus taxi industry, a sound working relationship with the appointed leadership and as government, we coordinate our actions and our legislation. My department and the local sphere of government recognizes Santaco as the only representative structure of the minibus taxi industry in the Western Cape. We have always practiced an open door policy with Santaco and its regional structures. Both the Office of the Provincial Taxi Registrar and the Provincial Regulatory Entity, in partnership with the local sphere of government, have regular engagement with the Provincial Executive Committee, the regional structures, and the primary taxi associations. It is expedient to note that transport planning is an exclusive local government matter, and the City of Cape Town plays an important role in our engagement with the minibus taxi industry. These ongoing engagements allow us to identify early warning signs in respect of taxi violence, to identify operational issues, and to find workable solutions. We also provide financial and logistical support to the minibus taxi industry. Through various initiatives driven by provincial and municipalities, we have supported the formalization and empowerment of the industry. We implemented special regulatory processes in partnership with Santaco that resulted in the legalization of many operators and a more equitable balance between supply and demand. The B part to the question, my department regularly facilitate discussions with municipalities in the Western Cape to identify operational challenges and to develop joint interceding measures. We've established a minibus taxi task team that meets on a regular basis to identify critical challenges facing the minibus taxi industry. All the regulatory planning and law enforcement stakeholders are present at the taxi task team meetings, as well as regional and provincial leadership of Santaco. We are cognizant of the fact that we as government cannot proceed without the planning and regulatory initiatives for this industry, without giving them an opportunity to actively participate in these processes and influence the outcomes. I have to commend the industry leadership for the willingness to engage government on important matters, although we may not all agree on all issues. But we have committed ourselves to use the task team as a platform to unpack these issues and to find common ground in the interest of the commuting public. We've also agreed on escalation and mediation processes. Besides this task team engagement, the Ministry and the Department practice an open door policy with Santaco and other public transport operators. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, that brings us to the end of time allocated for questions for oral reply. And with that, order members, this is what happens when we break and we interject. The time continues. So that is the end of questions as per the rules. We will now move on to questions to the Premier without notice in terms of Rule 204, and I recognize the Honourable Christians. Honourable Christians, before you pose your questions, Honourable members, just to remind you that there will be 2 follow-ups by the member posing the initial question to the Premier, and it needs to relate to the initial question that you are posing. Honourable Christians.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the question to the Premier is Premier, is your government, the Western Cape government, serious about the safety of our children? Let me give you one of the biggest concerns that we have. The government is absolutely failing us when it comes to protecting our children in schools, when it comes to bullying. If you watch the papers yesterday, and bullying is increasing every day at our schools. There's systems put in place, but still, parents must run to the police station because of the severe attacks. And you know, it's emotional, physical attacks. And I want to know, are you aware, is it brought to your attention that bullying is spiraling out of control? And is your government doing something about that?
Thank you very much, Honourable Christians. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much to the Honourable Christians for the question. And absolutely, I mean, obviously this is a complex question. You know, school safety is part of the school safety plan. I mean, crime and violence, safety of our citizens. I'm sure the honourable member knows by now that it is, you know, one of the areas that I have focused on. It's one of the areas that not necessarily a constitutional mandate, but we take money primarily, I suppose, away from our biggest budget items to put towards safety, because quite frankly, the policing system or the criminal justice system is not it's failing us. But it goes much further than that, because especially, I think, bullying in schools, for example, is not necessarily a government's sole responsibility. It's got to be the whole of society as to how we deal with this. Now, I would welcome, I mean, we've set up now a violence prevention unit, specifically looking at how does violence and how do we get to causalities. It's all very well trying to deal with a murder rate or gangsterism, but what's the pathway that leads to that? And it starts at schools amongst kids. It starts as how we treat each other. I mean, I just look at how we treat each other on social media, and I think, my goodness, imagine. I mean, that's just the psyche of citizens. And so obviously, I think it is a huge, huge problem. We need to look for successful stories. We need to say how, in which schools are.
My apologies, Premier.
We decided whose laptop this is. We don't know yet. Seems like we've solved it. Thank you. So obviously, and I mean, I would also be totally open to suggestions. So we've got money allocated now to violence prevention. We've got safe schools programs, if we're just going back to just bullying. But, you know, what are some of the best practices? Some of them that I've seen, I must say that I was at one school, and I suppose you've got to be careful how you identify certain schools or not. But they had this program where, as learners would arrive at the school, they would decide, this is primary school now, they would decide, are they going to be a prefect for the day? Or are they going to be a bully monitor for the day? And I thought that was quite interesting. I'd never seen that in other schools before. So they put on this bib that says, I'm a bully monitor. And they would step in to say, guys, please try and let's calm down here. They would, because they're one of the learners, they would understand who is the class bully and how do we deal with it. But you know, it's one of those things that we've got to learn all the time. We've got to evolve, and it's got to be a whole of society approach. So, you know, the parents have got a role to play, schools have got a role to play, government's got a role to play. If we see it raising its head as it is, violence prevention unit, what are they going to do about identifying the causalities, and how do we get back in to try to change or get behavior change amongst citizens, because I think that's where a lot of our crime starts, because it comes through a young person finding out that I have a lot of strength in my capacity in taking power over someone else. And so then it just gets worse and worse until eventually they become a gangster with a gun or a knife. But yeah, thank you for the question. I think it is a serious question. And I mean, if there was one single answer, I promise you we'd be using it. I believe it's whole of society that have got to come together to find these solutions. And I would welcome, you know, any input on some ideas of what we think we could do to really start to change this where it is starting to get worse and worse.
Thank you very much, Premier. Honourable Christian, your first follow-up.
Thank you, Premier, for that. You see, when a child is bullied, child goes to the parent. The parent comes to school, go to the principal. And when the principal and teachers fail this parent, that is the problem that I have. Because it's not that the Western Cape government doesn't have plans. There's plans. But what do you do when you come to a school and you're failed by the teachers and principal? So I want you, Premier, just to tell the people of the Western Cape, what must they do if, I mean, here I've got it, they at wit's end, because the child must go back to school being bullied, but the matter was reported. That is the sad part of it. And this child must go through this with teachers and principals not doing anything. What will you tell the people of the Western Cape if their children are bullied and they're not adhered to when it comes to the teachers and principals? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Christian. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much. And obviously now the honourable members are mentioning specific cases. Obviously there must be an escalation process. Of course, if that escalation process is not sufficient or it doesn't result in a satisfactory answer to the process, of course, then those parents must have other recourse. And I presume those recourses could be from a court on the one side to making a choice around their child's process of education on the other side.
Thank you very much. Your second opportunity, Honourable Christians.
Thank you. I'm just checking 2021, it was 35 cases that were reported. 2022, 96 cases were reported. Now, you see, Premier, you cannot uproot almost 100 children because of bullying. The system is failing them, and that is my question. So I spoke to a mother in a Noel Park. It happens in all over. I can give you all the figures, but I don't want to do that. I'm just thinking, people come to us and say, what must we do? The system is failing us. So now I go back and say,
Honourable Christian, can I remind you, you must ask a follow-up question. You don't need to justify it. Please ask your follow-up.
Yeah, the question is, we cannot uproot our learners, almost 100 of them. I couldn't get the statistics for this year, but last year, so you can see it's increasing. We cannot uproot our learners. Our learners want to teach. So the question again, Premier, is what do you, because why must people go to the police station? They go to the police station and the police get involved. So surely there's a failure. Surely we must do something about it. And surely when we tell our children to go to school, they must be protected when they're in school. And that is my biggest problem. So again, Premier, what should the people of the Western Cape do? We cannot uproot 100 families because of being bullying at our schools.
Thank you, Honourable Christians. Honourable Premier.
Thank you. Obviously, if the honourable member is really serious about this, let's pull the statistics together. If we have a common school, let's go and analyse that common school. Let's ask Minister Mania to have a look at what's happening there. Let's follow it through, and even let's utilise the services of our new violence prevention centre and say, how do we bring in some university specialists to say, how do we deal with this? Obviously we have many learners in our education system amongst our 1,500 schools. We've got to go and analyze, and of course, we've got to make sure that we try to get to the bottom of this, especially if there are repeat offenders, commonalities. Use the data, and let's use the data to try and find solutions.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable members, that concludes question 1, or the first opportunity for questions to the Premier, and I recognise the Honourable Baku Force.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Am I audible?
You are indeed audible.
Thank you very much. Honourable Speaker, I rise today with a heavy heart to address the pressing issue of gender-based violence and femicide, particularly in regions outside the metro, and more specifically the concerning situation in Drakenstein. It is evident that we are facing an alarming crisis, one that requires immediate attention and action from our government. In September 22, the entire nation was shaken by the horrific case of 5-year-old
Honourable Baku Force, I do not want to interrupt because it's a very important topic that I would imagine you wanting to pose a question to. And in terms of the rules, you need to pose the question to the Premier. You do not need to give a background to that. So can I please ask that you pose the question?
Okay, thank you, Chairperson. Speaker. My question to the Premier, it is evident that safety plan, as exemplified by the heartbreaking incidents I've mentioned above, has fallen short of expectation. It has failed dismally in its mission to address GBV and femicide, and to ensure protection of women and children in our province. The people are not interested in excuses and blame games. We cannot continue in this way to fail our women and
Honorable
children in
Baku
this
Force,
time.
can I please again remind you to pose the question? You do not need to justify the reason why you're asking the question. So can you just ask the question?
Okay, what I want to know is that in action of your government is taking to address the crisis of GBV and femicide, in particular the critical shortage of clinical psychologists in our province, particularly in regions like Drakenstein. And what is your government through the safety plan doing to deploy more psychologists to support SARS? To be specific, what is your government doing to provide
Honorable
the necessary?
Baku Force, Honorable
That's my
Baku
question,
Force.
Speaker.
Honorable
That's my
Baku
question.
Force, the rules are very clear. Questions to the Premier is questions that relates to his role as the Premier of the province. You do not need to justify why you're asking it. So can I just ask, in the interest of your time and your opportunity, that you pose the question? You'll have 2 follow-ups after that to expand on that. So you don't need to do that right up front.
That was the question. That was the question, Speaker.
Honorable Baku Force, I was listening very carefully. I'm sure the Premier was too, and let me not project and I'll provide the Premier. Premier, did you get that question?
Let me repeat it. I want to know if there is any steps of the government is taking to address the crisis of GBV and femicide, in particular, the critical shortage clinical psychologists in
Thank you very
our
much.
province, particularly in Drakenstein. And what is the government through the safety plan during deploy more psychologists to support
All right,
SARS?
Honorable
I want the
Baku
Premier
Honorable
to be
Baku Force,
specific
Honorable
when it
Baku
answers this
Force,
question.
Honorable Baku Force, if you
Yes.
allow me, I will assist you with this. So your first question was posed to the Premier. So Premier, if you can answer the first part of the question, you will have 2 follow-ups, and the rest of your questions we can unpack in your your 2 follow-ups, if that's in order, Honorable Baku Force. Okay.
I presume it is. Thank you very much. So if we get to the nub of what I think that question was deployment or budget for more social worker type support, especially around gender-based violence. And in our government, Minister Fernandes is responsible responsible within the safety plan, but also primarily on gender-based violence, both within the government as well as externally. But primarily, and here you have to correct me on the numbers because I'm just now, you're asking me a question in someone else's portfolio, but I think it's around about 74 million rand was the extra money that was given for specifically this question. And so it's 74 million extra in budget to employ more social workers to deal with this kind of issue.
Thank you very much, Premier. Honorable Baku Force. So now you have your first opportunity to ask a follow-up
My
question.
second question, Speaker. It is clear that the Premier is not so serious about GBV because he managed to invest 1 billion in other departments, but when it comes to the social development, he doesn't care that much. It means he's not serious about that. But umbuzo wokugqibela somlomo njengoko umuntu ewubona umcelimngeni esijongene nawo wokudlwengulwa nokubulawa kwamanini kweli phondo ngakumbi eDrakensberg sifuna ukuqonda.
Honorable Baku Force. Honorable Baku Force. I've been trying to assist you because I don't want to lose for you to lose this opportunity to pose questions to the Premier without notice. The rules are very clear. You have two opportunities to ask follow-up questions. And again, like I said in the beginning, you do not need to justify or give context to your question. Can I please ask that you just do the follow-up question? So
I will
you
do
just need
that.
to pose the question.
I want to know the details of specific actions and programs your government intends to initiate to revamp and strengthen the safety plan to ensure that it fulfills its promise to reduce violence in our homes, schools, and streets, and protect women and children of our province from the scourge of GBV and femicide. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
Upremier ke somlom ndimve nabantu bamve.
Right. Thank you very, very much, Honorable Bakubaka Force. Honorable Premier, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the honourable member for the follow-up. Obviously there is the internal programs that I've spoken about where Minister Fernandes takes responsibility. There is obviously the main space in which this responsibility lies, which is actually with the South African Police Services and with the criminal justice system, both of those managed by her political party, the Honourable Baku Force's political party. And because of their failure, that's why we've had to step in. That's why we've had to make extra money available and apportion different responsibilities to different people within this government. And I'd like to just refer her to the latest crime statistics. And in those crime statistics, just go and have a look at the percentage of reduction in gender-based violent crimes like rape. Go and have a look at that. Now, of course, have a look at that and then compare it to other provinces who don't have safety plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier. Honourable Bakubaka Force, your last opportunity to ask a follow-up question. Can you please just ask the question?
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I'm not happy even about I don't know, he didn't even reply my question. He started his tactics of the blame game. I'm asking about his province. I don't ask any province, but
Can you please ask the question, Honourable Bakubaka Force?
So again, I want to know what has he put in place to help the women and children that get raped every day. Is he really a premier of the Western Cape, or is he somewhere else? Is he in Ukraine? I don't understand our premier. Can he specifically answer my question?
Thank you very much, Honourable Bakubaka Force. Honourable Premier.
Thank you very much. And so again, I'm going to refer the honourable member to the safety plan. I'm sure I've given it to her a number of times. And she actually mentioned the 1.1 billion.
Order members.
Which is over and above a normal provincial mandate, because we step into those spaces where the ANC totally failed the citizens of this country. And perhaps in answering this and talking to the safety plans, very interesting how you listen to the honourable members on the other side. So then they always come up about why the safety plan doesn't work, or they don't like the safety plan. It's because it's tackling exactly probably the biggest failure of the ANC, except I say biggest failure, I think of SASSA, and we can't make SASSA payments. We can't keep the lights on. We can't get product out of our ports. Our Transnet rail services failed us. I mean, you name the ANC policy position or the ANC delivery system, and they are totally failing the citizens of South Africa in every single aspect. But probably the biggest failure is where we are not able to, through our policing system and through our criminal justice.
Honourable Bakubaka Force, is that a point of order? Honourable Premier, please take your seat.
Yes,
Honourable Bakubaka Force, what's your point of order?
My point of order is that Premier must just answer the question, not making irrestation like sub a child. telling us the usual
Thank
thing.
you. Thank you, Honorable
About the
Bako
ANC
Force. That
this,
is not a
ANC
point
that.
of order.
I want to know
You've
about
posed
the
the
plan
question
put
to the
in place.
Premier, and how the Premier responds is not for
Premier,
me or the House to
answer what
adjudicate.
you
Honorable
put in
Bako
place
Force, I'm on the
to
floor.
reduce.
You rose on a point of order. I'm addressing you on the point of order. Can I please ask that Honorable Bako Force please be muted? Honorable Bako Force, you posed the question. The Premier is responding to the question. How the Premier responds is up to the Premier, not for us to adjudicate. So that is not a point of order.
Where does
Honorable
Sasa
Premier, you
Grant
may
come
continue.
in? Where does Sasa Grant?
Honorable Premier, can the table staff please mute Honorable Bako Force? And Honorable Premier, can you please continue?
So I was saying about the total failure of the ANC to deliver services to the citizens of this province around policing. You know, I was internationally in Germany, and I noticed 3 documents when I was at the Institute for Security Studies in Germany. I picked up these 3 documents because they really interested me. The first one says how to map violence without police data. And I thought, oh, that looks quite interesting, because that's exactly what we're trying to do in our safety plan. How do we use other data to map violence? Guess what the Institute of Security
Premier, can you please
Studies is writing
conclude?
about?
The time has
They're
expired.
writing about our safety plan. Hotspot policing for murder and robbery, Cape Town, a case study, international studies. They're writing about our
Thank you,
safety
Premier.
plan. Very interesting.
Thank you very
Speaker.
much, Premier. Honorable members, that concludes question to the Premier without notice in terms of Rule 204. We will now move over to statements by members in terms of Rule 145. And I recognize the DA.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, picture a young child dropped off at school, eyes filled with anticipation as she bids a temporary goodbye to her mother. Already daydreaming about the warm embrace awaiting her in the afternoon when she gets picked up from school. Yet the unthinkable happens as the mother gets killed in a tragic car accident on her way to work. Driving recklessly, disobeying road rules, speeding, and driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs are among the many irresponsible behaviors that put lives and safety of all road users at risk. There is no excuse for such behavior because the stakes are too high. Therefore, it is important for every single person in this province to practice road safety on our roads. Your actions on the road not only endanger your own life, but the lives of innocent road users and pedestrians alike. Good driver behavior is essential, but proactive measures such as a vehicle fitness test and road safety plans are essential. And we warmly welcome the measures taken by the Western Cape Mobility Department to date, sending a strong message that endangering the lives of commuters on our roads will not be tolerated. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable America. I recognize the ANC.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. As we gather here today, we are in addressing a pressing issue that affects us all, the future of the transport industry in our province. It is with great concern that we witness the current action of the provincial DA government, which seem to be driven by a relentless desire to wrestle control over the transport sector from the national government. While decentralization of power can be a noble endeavor, it should never come at the expense of our province development or the well-being of its citizens. The DA provincial government, which was elected to serve the interests of our province, has a vital role in shaping the transport industry within our borders. They have been vested with the powers and responsibility to address the unique challenges and opportunities that our region presents. However, instead of utilizing these powers to bring about meaningful change, we see a troubling trend of neglect and a misguided focus on centralized control. Transport is the lifeblood of our economy, connecting communities, enable commerce, and enhancing the quality of life for our residents. It is a sector that requires comprehensive planning, investment, and innovation to keep pace with the demands of a growing population in a rapidly changing world. Yet we find ourselves in a situation where the DA provincial government seem more interested in political battles than in the pressing issues at hand. We must remind our provincial government that true progress can only be achieved through collaboration and a shared vision for our province. Rather than pursuing power for power's sake, we implore the DA government to refocus its efforts. The DA government's relentless pursuit of centralized control over the transport sector rather than utilizing their provincial powers to address pressing issues raises serious concern about the neglect of our province responsibility and the well-being of its citizens. The transport industry is crucial for our province's well-being.
Honourable
and the
MP, please conclude.
Government should refocus efforts, embrace provincial responsibility, and collaborate with stakeholders to ensure a brighter
Thank you
future
very
for the
much,
sector,
Honourable Mvimbi.
promoting progress and prosperity.
Thank you very much. I recognize the EFF. EFF. Honourable Minister, in terms of the rule, if you want to respond, you have an opportunity. The EFF. I will move on. I'm not seeing the EFF. I recognize the DA.
Honourable Speaker, when we require urgent assistance in dangerous situations, we naturally turn to the police to come to our assistance and to safeguard us. However, Honourable Speaker, what should we do when the ones we look to safeguard us are the same people who rape, assault and murder and rob those in society? This is the dire situation people in the Western Cape face themselves with. We, the Democratic Alliance, have recently uncovered that 257 criminal charges have been laid against members of the South African Police Service in the Western Cape from 2020 until today. The shocking list of charges includes corruption, assault, drunken driving, rape, and murder. The list also indicates that members of the police have been implicated in multiple counts of defeating or obstructing the course of justice, drug dealing, and malicious damage to property. The serious nature of these offences have dire consequences for the public good and for public trust in the South African Police Service as an organisation. While I firmly believe that the majority of police officers in this province remain upstanding and honourable guardians of the law, these revelations are deeply troubling and action needs to be taken. Therefore, I will be inviting senior management of the South African Police Service in the Western Cape to appear before the Standing Committee on Community Safety and Police Oversight as soon as possible, because we must work together to build a police service that is worthy of the public's trust, even if the ANC does not want to participate in that noble quest.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Please indulge me if that I'm going to go back and allow Honourable Klaas an opportunity. Honourable Klaas, I'm not setting a dangerous precedent in this House. Honourable Klaas, I'm going to allow you this opportunity, but please note that there's an order for member statements. Technically, you were not here when you were called. So this is the first and the last time that we will make this provision.
Thank you, Speaker, for your grace. The EFF would like to take an opportunity and welcome two legal opinion pieces draft by the Legal Support Department of Western Cape Provincial Parliament regarding the unconstitutionality of the Western Cape Provincial Power Bill. These legal opinion pieces go a long way in reiteration the EFF long-standing position that the bill is nothing but a desperate electioneering stunt by the DA, which was manufactured in their recent held federal conference, which the aim of pleasing those white people pose unrealistic aspiration of an independent Western Cape. The bill flouts all tenets of law book on the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, infringes on the rules of law, and more particular of the particularly which requires
the exercise of state power to be sourced from the power legal provinces. The bill the bill directly violates the very second of spirit of unity and nation building upon which constitution we enacted and for which many people sacrifice for their lives. This bill is nothing but the piece of paper possessing the underlying aspiration of separating whites who wants to usurp the power of national government on policings. Public transport, energy harbors, and every key instrument defines state through white minority votes. The time had come to the DA to be with itself and admit that the minority party that only wants advance the interest of whites at the expense of the black electorate, who they do not
Thank you very much, Honorable Klaas. Your time has expired.
Are you supposed to give me that time?
No. I do not don't have to give you a minute to tell you time's expired. But on a more serious note, honorable members, on that member statement, I will revert back to the House because the statements made in that member statement that could border on the rule of anticipation, because that bill is currently before a committee. So Parliament is currently engaging on that bill, and the statement made, I will revert to Hansard and come back, and if need be, we'll make a ruling on that.
Yes, you can revert it. We are going to deal about that.
Thank you very much. Thank you, honorable members. I now recognize Good.
Honorable Speaker, I asked the Premier question pertaining the appointment of Mr. Schröder at the last sitting and whether he had followed through on the recommendations in the final report. The Premier read me the answer he had read to this House late 2020, and thus I have the unpleasant task of telling you that in the process of trying to prove the regularity of what has remained a controversial appointment, the Premier himself made himself guilty of deceiving this House and manipulating the truth. I say this without reservation because the answer to the question.
Honourable member, if you can just take your seat, please. There's a point of order. What's your point of order? 1 minute, honourable members. I have a point of order. Honourable Coleman, if she can do that. That's part of her job. Yes, over to you.
Chair, in terms of Rule 59, subsection 1 and subsection 2, you cannot say that the Premier has deceived. If the member wants to say that, then they must come with a substantive motion to the House. We know the process of substantive motions, so the member must then bring a substantive motion.
Thank you very much. Just remember that this is a statement. But honourable member, if I could just remind you that if there are accusations, you are welcome to bring a substantive motion to this House. You may proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I say this without reservation because the answers to the question.
Order, members. Honourable Kama, you may proceed.
Posted last week have no room for anyone hearing those answers to consider the fact that the Commission led by Mr. Leon Goosen had in fact not agreed or accepted the legal opinion obtained on the matter and stood steadfastly behind the findings. The Premier chose not to share this information. My office spoke with Mr. Leon Goosen.
Order, proceed. You may proceed.
My office spoke with Mr. Leon Goosen, who rejected the impression created by the answer to my question in this House at the last sitting. The Premier states that at no point did he or the Commission accept the legal opinion, what was the right opinion in this matter. Furthermore, I'd like the House to note that Section 196.4D of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, Section 5.8A and B of the Public Service Act, and the Public Service Act provides in Section 5.8B that the directions of the PSC are binding on the executive authority, the minister or the member of the Executive Council. I thank you.
Thank you very much, honourable member. I now recognise the ACDP.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the South African Police Services has failed the family of the late Carly Isaacs. 3 years after the 17-year-old Carly was raped and murdered inside her home while her father was asleep. She was raped and killed on March 2020. Only this week, Deputy Speaker, the DNA, which was outstanding, has been received and will now form part of the investigation. That I cannot believe. No arrest has been made. And we will never forget that Carly was in a church service, went home to change herself, and while at home, she was raped and killed. Shocking, shocking. Her father got up, and when he got up from his sleep, he saw his daughter murdered. The ICDP is calling for the devolution of police powers so that the failing national government would stop failing the people of the Western Cape. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise the ANC.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. The Stormers will never represent South Africa in a Rugby World Cup. Never. We are dealing with a provincial government who are not happy being a provincial government, Deputy Speaker. Today, I address a critical political contention in Cape Town that exposes the city's failure and highlights the urgent need for responsible governance. We cautiously commend the National Minister of Human Settlement for its intervention in a city where the welfare of its most vulnerable citizens has long been neglected. In Cape Town, over 1,500 individuals endured dire conditions along the Central Railway line, a situation that demands immediate attention. The national government allocated 50 million to purchase the land for their relocation, offering hope in the face of adversity. However, the City of Cape Town's actions, or rather inaction, represent a grave political betrayal. The land intended for the marginalized has been prioritized for private interest, a departure from our political values, but compounds this situation in the City of Cape Town's apparent sabotage of national government's efforts to relocate these citizens. This non-committal stance led the national government to declare a legal dispute under the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act, IGR, against the city. The city decided to return the 50 million provided by the Housing Development Agency. They return it, send it back. They ask for more money, more money. When they get more money, they send it back. This decision came with directives to utilize these funds for purchasing land earmarked for relocating of 1,254 shacks near Langa Station. The city's actions are a direct affront to the dignity and well-being of our citizens, living a deplorable conditions such as obstructionism is inexcusable and undermines the principle of corporate governance essential for our democracy. The ANC condemns the City of Cape Town's obstructionism and demands its assessing cooperation with the national government efforts in the upliftment of marginalized communities.
Thanks, Honourable
I
Member.
thank you.
Thank you so much. I now recognise the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, this week saw the country suffer stage 6 load shedding once again and staring stage 7 down the barrel. It is clear to everyone in the country, except maybe those honourable members across the aisle, that things at Eskom will never get better. In fact, they're getting worse under the ANC rule. As the chair of the ad hoc committee on the energy crisis, I've invited the National Minister of Electricity, Honourable Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, to appear before the committee and honestly report on the situation. While he has failed to appear before the committee on more than one occasion, he does seem intent on coming, and I've received confirmation that he will be in front of the committee early in November. The date will be circulated amongst the members of the committee first. The time for transparency has come, and I hope that our engagement with the minister will help to illuminate the way forward on how to put an end to load shedding in the Western Cape. South Africans are remarkably resilient and witty, but our businesses cannot be expected to create urgently needed jobs when they cannot keep the lights on and run their processes effectively. Once the DA and our multi-party charter partners take the union buildings next year, South Africans can expect a permanent plan to end load shedding. Until then, we will continue to hold the ANC to account for their failures and keep looking for innovative solutions to this energy crisis. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I now recognise the Freedom Front Plus. Order, members.
Thank you so much, Speaker.
Order, members. Order. You may proceed, Honourable Murray.
The Freedom Front Plus, noting the economic and marketing challenges facing small emerging coloured farmers in the Western Cape, and the extraordinary efforts by that now deceased supermarket giant, Raymond Ackerman, to help small-scale farmers in the Eastern Cape by establishing a collection and transport network to get these farmers' products to the markets. We want to express the hope that Raymond Ackerman's initiatives will continue in the Western Cape and that it will not be taken to his grave with him. We cannot allow foreign NGOs and commercial farmers to form a cabal that smother and stifle indigenous emerging farmers in our province. This, Speaker, is especially true in the case of marketing of indigenous Western Cape honeybush and tea products. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I recognise Al Jamal.
Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Speaker, the first chapter of the Holy Quran,
Order, Honourable Moran.
Suratul Alaq, the chapter of the blood cloth. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Read in the name of your sustainer who is the creator. خلق الإنسان من علق. He has created the human being from a clot of blood. اقرأ وربك الأكرم. Read, and your sustainer is most compassionate. الذي علم بالقلم. He who is taught by means of the pen. علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. He taught the human being that which they don't know. I thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you very much. I now recognise the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, in a stunning turn of events, the National Minister of Finance, Ina Gondongwana, has appeared to now join the growing list of individuals and organizations questioning the feasibility of the National Health Insurance Bill. The NHI Bill, as proposed by the ANC, has been shrouded by uncertainty and a lack of clear planning on its administration. It is crucial to underscore, Deputy Speaker, that South Africa is financially not able to implement the NHI in its current model. Having identified this legitimate concern, the Finance Minister suggests prioritizing the upgrading and improvement of hospitals over the implementation of the NHI, which is simply not feasible. The Minister states that the NHI requires an additional 300 billion rands, which South Africa simply cannot afford. It has been theorized that the 300 billion be generated by a 40% surcharge on income tax, increasing VAT, a payroll tax, or increasing corporate income tax. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the South African taxpayer simply cannot afford this. While it should be stressed that the DA strongly supports universal healthcare for all, we do not believe that the NHI is the vehicle to achieving this goal. We are pleased that the Minister of Finance has come to the same realization that the DA has always held, that the NHI simply is too expensive. Speaker, it is evident that the ANC was desperately trying to use this bill as a political tool to garner votes ahead of the 2024 elections. The DA is glad that sanity has finally prevailed, and we hope that the ANC will realize that their doomed NHI bill is not the answer to South Africa's healthcare challenges. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Pretorius. Honourable members, in terms of Rule 145, subsection 6, I now give one or more members of the executive present an opportunity to respond to members' statements for not more than 5 minutes collectively, if they so wish. I recognize the Minister, Minister Mackenzie. Premier.
Thank you very much, Speaker. To the coach, some wise words. Perhaps he should not, I don't know if it's his researcher or it's the one-party leader, chairman, general for life, Heron, but he must please go back and read the answer that I gave him, because what he said here today was absolutely incorrect. And I will read the first part of my answer again. The Western Cape government has received advice from the Department of Public Service and Administration, which has reaffirmed that the extension of the Education HOD Brian Schroeder's contract was lawful and valid. Mr. Schroeder's contract was extended for 2 years in 2018 based on the original advice received from the DPSA in 2017. Okay, so then it goes on to say, earlier this year, the Public Service Commission finalized a report which indicated that the appointment was irregular without having considered the DPSA, which is the custodian of the applicable legislation. In the wake of this report, the request that the DPSA provide clarity, a legal opinion was provided by the DPSA by the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor. A legal opinion from the Chief State Law Advisor, and that's basically said the HOD is not an employee of this government. It was a contract, and therefore it was legal. Please, that's the answer that I've given you. You've just come and quoted something totally irrelevant. Please go and have a look at that answer.
Thank you very much. Are there any further members of the executive? I recognize the Honourable Minister Simmers.
Honourable Speaker, we have now listened continuously to the issue of the central line in the Prasa. En dan maak wel aan sê, jy moet jou eie beel blaas en dan sit jou onderbroek op jou knieën nie. En die rede hoekom ek dit vir die agbare speaker sê, eerstens, die feite is as volg. Die grond vir fase 1 was eerst op 7 Augustus 2023 premier deur die Nasionale Departement van Behuising gekoop. Weereens, hulle mislei al vir afgelope paar maande gemeenskap tot die sentrale lyn. Tweedens, u verwys na maandag se imbies wat eintlik 'n ANC uitstappie was. Weet jy hoekom? Want nog minder ek of die uitvoerende burgemeester van die stad Kaapstad was skoons genooi na hierdie sogenaamde imbies toe. So ja, jy blaas jou eie beel, my onderbroek op jou knieë. Baie dankie.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Are there any further members of the executive? I recognize the Honourable Minister Mackenzie.
Thank you, Honourable
Order,
Speaker.
members.
Honourable Speaker, Honourable Mbumbi earlier talked about the decentralization that we want to do. In fact, we want devolution. So quick, just to remind Honourable Mbumbi, by the National Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, said they spent nearly 308 billion rand on state-owned enterprises which are failing. A lot of them transport enterprises. Prasa, Transnet, Shoshaloza Mail, Autopex, South African Airways, South African Express, everything the ANC touched led to failure. That is why we want devolution to more competent governments as enshrined in the Constitution and not centralized, because the centralization is why we are sitting here today in stage 6 load shedding by the ANC. The reason hundreds of thousands of people today, pensioners, can't access pension funds because of centralization by the ANC. The Post Bank Board, 90% of them walked out yesterday because of the ANC. The reason we want devolution to more competent governments like ourselves, it's because of the ANC. I thank you.
Thank you very much, honourable members. Order, members. Are there any further members of the executive that wishes to respond? If not, thank you very much, honourable members. That brings us to the end of members' statements. So can the discussion on the statements please stop as we move on to motions of notice of motions in terms of Rule 151. In terms of the Rule 151, all notices of motions by members are required to be delivered to the Secretary for placing it on the order paper. These motions have been duly submitted and published on the order paper below the line. We now move on to motions without notice in terms of Rule 150. And I would like to inform members that in terms of Rule 150 pertaining to motions without notice, condolences and congratulatory were submitted to the Programming Authority prior to this plenary on the 12th of September 2023. Members are also reminded that motions without notices pertaining to congratulatory and condolences will not be allowed in the sitting that have not been processed by the Programming Authority. Honourable members, I've been informed that in the Programming Authority meeting of the 12th of September, political parties did submit the names of honourable members in the desired order of speaking and who had wished to move a motion without notice in the sitting of the House. I will therefore, just for noting and for the purposes of the minutes, call out the honourable members whose names have accordingly been submitted and approved. The following members' motions have been approved by the Programming Authority as follows: Honourable G. Bosman, Honourable G. Bosman, Honourable F.C. Christians, Honourable A.P. Barnes, Honourable C.M. Dugmore, Honourable N.D. Nkondlo. I now put the motions duly submitted and approved by the Programming Authority to the House. Honourable members, are there any objections? No objections. Agreed to. The motions will appear in the minutes of the proceedings and in Hansard in each individual member's name, as if that member had read them out aloud. I will now afford the opportunity to members to move motions without notice as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 2, subsection D. This could also include motions without notice that were not approved in the Programming Authority meeting. Members, I wish to remind you that as per Standing Rule 150, subsection 2, subsection D, there is 30 minutes allocated for this section. The 30 minutes will start now. I recognize the Honourable Seleko.
Thank you, Somlomo. I move without notice that this House notes that in about 2 months' time, the city of Cape Town will be sending a team of world-class firefighters to Spain to compete in the World Rescue Challenge. As the only team in Africa, they will be competing against some of the world's best teams from America and across Europe. DA-run governments have increasingly invested in the fire and rescue services over the years, and as a result, the Western Cape now boasts with a fire and rescue department that has more firefighting appliances than all the other provinces combined. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Seleko. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Kaiser Philander.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I move without notice that the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape has reported the National Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, to the South African Human Rights Commission for negligently failing to ensure the socio-economic rights of Western Cape SASSA grant beneficiaries by failing to provide social security. Further notes that the DA has been inundated by complaints from desperate grant beneficiaries all across the province who are struggling to withdraw their funds from ATMs and retailers due to technical glitches from Postbank. This House further notes that while the Western Cape government is constantly trying to alleviate social and economic pressures on our residents, efforts always remain hampered by the incompetence at the national government level. The Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape will take this issue head on until Minister Zulu is held accountable for failing the residents of the Western Cape. I so move, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kaiser Philander. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Maseko.
Thank you very
Order,
much,
members.
Speaker.
Members, order, members. Honourable Maseko, please take your seat. Order, members. Members, there was a motion, Honourable Nkondlo and Honourable Chief Whip. There was a motion. The motion was put to the House. There was an objection, and that brings us to the end of that motion. There's no need for further discussion. The motion was dealt with in terms of the rules. We now move on to Honourable Maseko.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, I move without notice that this House sends its best wishes to Mr. Karl Popeye, who has been appointed as the new MMC for Human Settlements in the city of Cape Town. Mr. Popeye is a young and talented councillor who has distinguished himself in the Human Settlements portfolio and has been serving on the city's portfolio committee for human settlements for nearly 5 years, as well as the Planning Appeals Advisory Panel, amongst others. His youthful vigor and unwavering dedication are promising assets that will undoubtedly drive progress and innovation in his new position. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Maseko. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Thank you very much, Honourable members. We move on to Honourable Bosman.
Honourable Speaker, I move without notice that this House notes that the City of Cape Town has so far hosted 81 local and international events, and they are looking at pushing through another 60 events before the end of this year. So far, R1 billion has been generated and 20 major events recorded over 1 million participants and spectators. Over the next weeks and months, the city will be hosting an array of events catering to the diverse entertainment demographic and featuring renowned events covering sports, motoring, literature, music, and art. Some of the events set to take place in Cape Town include Fame Week Africa, the Extreme Festival National Championship, Drift City, the Open Book Festival, World of Music, Arts and Dance, Operalia, and Zake Spatwini's Abantu Festival. These events all play a major role in building the local economy, building social cohesion, and promoting sports, arts, and culture. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bosman. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. We now move on to Honourable Kasim.
Thank you, Speaker. I move without notice.
Order members, I can't hear Honourable Kasim.
I move
Honourable
without
Kasim.
notice that the House call on the National Department of Human Settlement, City of Cape Town, and the Housing Development Agency to work together in making sure that the residents occupying the central line are relocated to suitable alternative land. This comes at the backdrop of the National Minister of Human Settlement accusing the DLH City of Cape Town of sabotaging the central line, the relocation attempts by turning back the funds advanced to acquire land for residents. The intergovernmental and interdepartmental disputes between national government and local government are not at the best interest of the poor and are certainly not advancing both the interests and the protected constitutional rights. The sooner residents are relocated to a more dignified, suitable land, the better, as that would afford PRASA and other departments to start working on fixing the infrastructure to make sure that trains are back on track and that thousands of commuters are able to utilize cheaper transport systems. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kasim. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Klaas. Honourable Klaas.
Wandifunde-ke ndizafunda ngesiXhosa. I move without notice for the House to note that during the course of this week, West Bank resident took it to the street to demand a satellite police station in their community. Better note that their call for police station in their area began in 2016, and the date this call have failed on deaf ears. Their concerns are that they have to report cases to the Blue Town police station, which is far, and majority of residents cannot afford taxi fares during the day to go to the police station and open a case. The resident further complained that police from Blue Town police station hardly come when they are being called to attend report crime scenes. All of this also affect provincial crime statistics, as majority of crime go to unreported, as majority of people continue to die in numbers. High armed robbers and growing crime perpetrated by the youth and gangsters in the area. As the EFF, we call on the national government to do the right things and assist this resident with a satellite police station as a temporary intervention mechanism. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Class. Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Class. Please take your seat. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? Is that an objection, Honorable Kama?
I just want to check, Speaker, is there an opportunity to? Well,
Order, members.
There's just one word there of deaf ears that we need to,
No. Are you objecting?
Amend or
Are you objecting to the motion being moved without?
because of the deaf
Thank
ears.
you very much, Honorable Kama. The motion, there is an objection. There is an objection. Honorable members, there is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honorable Nkondlo.
Thank you, Speaker. I move that the House express concern and sympathy for the
Order,
residents
members.
and farmers of Cedarburg, Western Cape, who have been adversely affected by recent events causing significant damage to food and agriculture. The destruction of crops and farmlands in this region poses a severe threat to food security and livelihoods. We call upon the relevant authorities to promptly assess the extent of the damage, provide the necessary support and resources to affected farmers. We pledge our solidarity with the community of Cedarburg and implore the government to take immediate action to mitigate the impact on agriculture and ensure a swift recovery for this vital sector of our economy. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nkondlo. Honorable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? Is there an objection? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Honorable members, the next, and this is just for the chief whips, the next motion will be done in the name of Honorable Barnes, because Honorable Van Vogel is unfortunately not part of this. It had to attend to an emergency, and I've granted that in terms of Rule 152, acting for an absent member. So there's absolutely, it's in line with the rules. So Honorable Barnes, over to you. Honorable Barnes. Okay, I'm going to continue. Honorable Lekker. Honorable Barnes is not online. Honorable Lekker.
Enkosi Mlomo. I move that the House notes and expresses unease regarding the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's deliberate silence on recent cyber attack findings within the legislature. The withholding of crucial information compromises the security of our institution and undermines the trust of the citizens we serve. Transparency and accountability are fundamental pillars of our democracy, and the failure to disclose pertinent details regarding this cyber attack erodes this principle. We urge the Western Cape Provincial Parliament to promptly share the findings and take appropriate measures to strengthen our cybersecurity defenses. In doing so, we protect the integrity of our legislature processes and assure the public of their safety. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lekker. Just for the chief whips, that was motion number 10. So we skipped motion number 9, but I'll get back to that. Let me put the motion to the House. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I now recognize the Honorable Lekker.
I can hear you, please. Oh,
Honorable members, honorable members.
Enkosi Somlomo, that the House expresses its deep concern over the deteriorating state of service delivery in the Western Cape and calls upon MEC Bredel to take immediate and concrete steps to address this pressing issue. While the DA touts clean audit, we emphasize that this should not be misconstrued as a definitive indicator of effective service delivery. Clean audits do not alleviate the hardships faced by our constituents daily. Furthermore,
We find it paradoxical that the DA is pushing for the provincial power bill while failing to adequately deliver services within the sectors it currently controls in the province. We urge the DA to first demonstrate its commitment to efficient service delivery before advocating for additional powers. The House implores the DA to prioritize the needs of the people in the Western Cape by taking substantial action to enhance service delivery, leaving no room for ambiguity regarding the quality of services provided to our people. I'm sure this resonates well to you as well as the Chief Whip from the NCSL. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Lekker. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection and the motion will be printed on the order paper. Honourable Deputy Chief Whip, is that a point of order?
It is a point of order in terms of precedence and procedure in this House. Is a member allowed to add substantive matters to a motion without notice that is read before this House, as we do get the motions beforehand in order to be able to familiarize ourselves with the matter?
Thank you very much. There is a rule, and the motions get submitted to the programming authority in advance. So there wasn't, according to what I have in front of me, substantive changes to that initial motion as submitted, Honourable Deputy Chief Whip, and the motion was put to the House, and there is an objection to the House. There was an objection, Honourable Chief Whip and Deputy Chief Whip. I'm on the floor. There has been the motion has been duly put to the House. There was an objection, and the motion will be printed on the order paper. We will now move on to Honourable Nkondlo.
Nkosi Somlomo, I move that the House notes and extends gratitude to the Minister of Human Settlements, Mamuluko Kubai, for her invaluable efforts in Strand's Etembeni informal settlements, working with the ANC's legislature Strand Parliamentary Constituency Office. She selflessly dedicated her time in supporting the noble endeavor of handing over essential building materials for 35 homes that tragically succumbed to fire. The ANC's unwavering commitment to the welfare and upliftment of our community is commendable and inspiring. The Minister's actions exemplify the spirit of unity and compassion that defines our collective mission. We express our heartfelt gratitude for her dedication in helping those in need during their challenging time. I so move. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. Honourable members, are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection, and the motion will be printed on the order paper. I recognize the Honourable Kama.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. On behalf of the People's Movement, the African National Congress, I move a motion without notice that the House acknowledges the good work done by members of the South African Police Services, while we do not cover up the misdeeds of some among them. Most of our women and men in blue continue to put their lives on the line in the service of our communities and the country. We commend the top brass of the South African Police Services, as well as IPID, for being intolerant of a few bad apples among the members of the service, and note their commitment to oppose those who tarnish the reputation of most of the members of SAPS. We call on our communities to work with members of the South African Police Services to combat crime. The House must unite behind every effort to make SAPS an institution of hope and guarantee the safety of all our people in the Western Cape, as opposed to irresponsibly promoting mistrust on the part of communities towards SAPS. As the chairperson of the Community Safety and Police Oversight, Honorable Bosman, does every week in the public domain. I so move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Kama. Honourable Bosman, is that a point of order?
Yes, Chair, I rise on Rule 59.1 I'm not sure if you heard it, but Member Kama, with his limited understanding of the rules, have imputed improper motives on me. I know that the ANC follows me on Twitter and subscribe to my media statements, but it is absolutely inappropriate to bring that to the House through a motion and not a substantive motion. If the member does know of any improper or unethical behavior on my part, I'd be happy to entertain a substantive motion.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bosman. Honorable Chief Whip of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have noted in the input made by Member Bosman, he is casting aspersion on Member Kama by saying, or with members Kama's limited understanding of the rules. I would like you to rule whether what is just said is in accordance to the rule, because I believe he is casting an aspersion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. So I'm sitting with a situation where there's both sides of the House are rising on exactly the same principle. For that reason, I'm going to consult Hansard and revert back. But in the interest of this motion being tabled and have been read out aloud in the House, I'm going to put the question, and we will deal with the substance of that in my ruling. So I'm putting the question before the House. Are there any objections to the motion being moved without notice? There is an objection, and the motion will be printed on the order paper. With regards to people's integrity and aspersions casted upon members in the House, I will come back and revert to the House with a ruling on that. But can I please just remind members that we are all honorable members here. If you have any issues with any information that you would like the House to take note of, there's rules that provide for that. So please can I ask and caution all members that the rules do provide for it. So please utilize those rules. Honorable members, I'm going to allow, if Honorable Barnes is online, I'm going to allow a final opportunity. Honorable Barnes is not online, and with that, members, I will then move on, and that concludes motions without notice. I'm now going to ask that the Secretary read the first order of the day.
Consideration of report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on Performance Protection Amendment Bill, B24F 2016.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stemele. Honourable members, the House received the report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on the Performance Protection Amendment Bill, conferring authority on the Western Cape delegation in the NCOP not to support this bill. This mandate has been sent to the NCOP. I will now afford parties an opportunity to make a declaration if they so wish for 3 minutes. I recognize the ANC.
Nkosi Somlomo kwakhona. With an unwavering dedication to advancing the rights of performers and safeguarding the realm of intellectual property, we, the esteemed members of the ANC, adopt the report on the Performance Protection Amendment Bill. The spirit of putting legislation in place as a measure to impose different political views becomes important. These bills are important to reform an old system to assist the new dispensation and help local artists. The absence of clarity around IP cannot be overemphasized, and it continues to present a serious challenge. This is in relation to the legality and policy position of this bill, which brings uncertainty for artists and those who produce knowledge who are not necessarily protected. Recognizing the profound cultural and economic significance of the performing arts to our society, we have diligently reviewed and considered those clauses of the Performance Protection Amendment Bill. We acknowledge the imperative need for this legislation to evolve and adapt to the dynamic landscape of the entertainment industry. The input from the public must have been well received, as it is through their lenses that we were able to deduce the concerns of the industry. The interest demonstrated by young people, particularly from indigenous groups, academics, and artists, is beyond reproach.
A fair number of young people in the public participation process showed great interest. The process should not be continually delayed because it poses a serious challenge. The spirit of the committee should be to have the discussion in the absence of clarity, taking into consideration that the old pieces of legislation are still enabling further exploitation of those that need protection. Let's host workshops that will equip young people with an informed view of copyright, especially those at the lowest ladder of society. Speak with those words with the ANC support the Performance Protection Amendment Bill. I thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. I recognize the EFF.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the EFF in the Western Cape views culture and the performing arts as an important cardinal pillar to our project of decolonization, especially in this province, and believes that those who pursue to protect and sustain livelihoods in this industry should not be exploited and abused. As the EFF, we would like to place it on the record that we do not support this Performance Protection Amendment Bill in its current form, and we reject it for the following reasons. On the 28th of March 2018, the National Assembly and NCLP concluded the work on this bill, where it was thereafter sent to the President for assent. On the 15th of June 2020, the President refused to sign the bill in its previous format and returned it to the National Assembly and its committees in order for it to be reviewed, revised, and reformatted. Part of the purposes and the objective of this bill was to address the plight of performers in the arts industry by providing them with legal standing when it comes to receiving royalties with the fixed work later on. When the fixed work later on becomes rebroadcasted, like during the retirement period, as an example. However, the reality is that this bill still falls short in achieving that objective, and the bill omits to establish a collecting agency for actors so that they can be paid their royalties every time the fixed work is later rebroadcasted or resold instead of them being paid once off, even though the performances continue to generate profits for others who include big companies when they are rebroadcasted. The results of this continue to affect our actors and their families in a negative way financially to such an extent that they die without a penny or leaving a legacy for their families. Those in the industry continue to fight for better working conditions to ensure fair labor practices are implemented where they are fully protected under this country's labor laws. They continuously have to bear the brunt of abusive working conditions in the sector, who, when signing contracts, the majority of these movie stars, as well as makeup artists, drivers, and photographers on set, are not protected in cases of injuries on set, as well as maternity leave, sick leave, overtime, and workman compensation for injury or death at the workspace, among others. This bill in its current format is not advancing in the interest of actors by any means. Instead, it subjects them to poverty and hardship. And for these reasons, we reject this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize Good.
No declaration on it.
Thank you very much. The ACDP.
No declaration. Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Freedom Front Plus.
No declaration, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Murray. Al-Jamaa.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker Al-Jamaa, we support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Democratic Alliance.
Speaker, the Performance Protection Amendment Bill is a poorly drafted piece of legislation replete with ambiguous key definitions. It further limits one of the core tenets of the performance industry, which is freedom to contract. To put it simply, this bill would ensure our province and country's beloved performers die of hunger. The bill remains in stark contrast with South Africa's international treaty implications, such as the Rome Treaty, despite the President having already raised this concern himself. It also has no firm grounding in the form of an adequate socio-economic impact assessment report, focusing on the impact of the bill on our performers. The Western Cape Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism followed a rigorous public participation process. And unlike other ANC provinces, we listened carefully to the concerned inputs we received from all stakeholders. Through our robust public participation, we became aware of the numerous substantive issues with the bill, and it is impossible that the inputs we received from these stakeholders would differ completely from those in other provinces. And yet, Speaker, all other provinces, except for KwaZulu-Natal, voted to support this in the NCOP. The concerns of residents in the ANC-led provinces clearly fell on deaf ears under their charge. whereas in the Western Cape, the DA-led Western Cape prioritized residents and our performers' needs. Speaker, this bill is not in our performers' best interest, which is why the DA cannot and will not support it.
Thank you very much, Honourable Murray. Thank you very much, Honourable Murray and Honourable members. I have to announce that in terms of that there are currently 31 honourable members present and entitled to vote, and the House is therefore quorate. The question put before the House is that the report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on the Performance Protection Amendment Bill conferring authority on the Western Cape delegation in the NCOP not to support this bill be ratified and adopted. Are there any objections? There is an objection, and therefore I will therefore put the question that those in favor of the report being ratified and adopted, please say A. Those not in favor of the report being ratified and adopted, please say no.
No.
I think the ayes have it, and the question is therefore approved. The report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on the Performance Protection Amendment Bill has therefore been duly adopted. The Secretary will now read the second order of the day.
Consideration of report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on Copyright Amendment Bill B13F 2017.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stemele. The House received the report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on the Copyright Amendment Bill, conferring authority on the Western Cape delegation in the NCOP not to support the bill. This mandate has been sent to the NCOP. I will now afford an opportunity to parties to make a declaration if they so wish for 3 minutes. I recognize the ANC.
In a resounding commitment to transformation and the advancement of performers' rights and the protection of intellectual property, we proudly support the Copyright Amendment Bill. Speaker, in our session on 11 May 2023, the ANC highlighted concerns with the bill, which was the notion of fair use and freedom of panorama, clause that was drawn from the wisdom of the public participants' concerns of our people that this bill seeks to uplift. The ANC's support of the bill does not negate the deliberations that technical amendments should be made to improve certain clauses. The absence of clarity around copyright, particularly the concerns raised on fair use, will present a serious challenge where legal and policy certainty is concerned for artists and those who produce knowledge. Speaker, this must be viewed in light of those who are not necessarily protected for their own development in their works, as opposed to those who have the means to follow the legal route that enable them to identify areas from which they could be exploited in their interaction and trade with others. The practice of exploiting our people, Speaker, is and has been an apartheid tactic which the DA seeks to continue exercising. This piece of legislation is critical for redress because the Copyright Act of 1998 is outdated, and this seeks to ensure that the socio-economic rights of our people are protected. Clause 12 should address fair use issues without disadvantaging knowledge producers, including scientific, technological, creative, and literature sectors. Copyright should include IP, and clauses should avoid vague exceptions and that could expose creatives to IP infringements. We support the bill taking into account the technical input and comments from some of the stakeholders that we have met. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Nkondlo. I recognize the EFF.
The EFF does not support the Copyright Amendment Bill. This bill followed the same path and the fate as the Performance Protection Amendment Bill. These bills are now facing the final phase of the second parliamentary process. What is of concern with the Copyright Bill is that it resents predecessor continue imported parts that will have entitled copyright holder with the lesser shares of the profits that it was previously the case multinational companies such as Sony and Gala Music would have been subjected to a process whereby would have released some of rights to contact music creators, thereby sharing profits. However, this position has now changed in his new revised bill as a result of pressure from the white monopoly capital and for profiteering purpose by those who hold their longer market share. The previous bill appeared to have interest of exploited content created at the heart with the introduction of the expropriation clause, only for the be changed by the president after receiving pressure from the white controllers and handlers, both domestically and abroad. The sad reality we're facing now is that we are left with revised and eroded bill which had deviated from what sought to achieve in order to reward the real content producers who today remain poor as their work continue to enrich the rich. It's therefore this reserved that the EFF will not support this bill. The reason we don't support, we are not care which, but the process, it means that there's individuals that's going to benefit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Class. I recognize Good.
No declaration, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. ACDP.
No declaration, Speaker.
Thank you very much. Freedom Front Plus.
No declaration.
Thank you very much. Al-Jamar.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker Al-Jamar, we support the Copyright Amendments Bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Democratic Alliance. Order, members.
The Copyright Amendment Bill has been duly considered and was rejected by the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on behalf of the residents of the Western Cape. The process followed to introduce this already outdated and out-of-touch bill once again highlights the legislative ineptitude of the ANC-led national government. It will constitute a retrospective and arbitrary deprivation of property, constitutes an impermissible delegation of legislative powers to the minister, and undermines our creatives and their rights through its provisions on fair use and resale royalties for visual artists. Throughout our extensive public policy process, it became clear that this bill is not in the interests of our creatives and their rights. This plethora of issues was brought to our attention by members of the public and industry experts. It is very clear that the effects that it will have on industry stakeholders was not properly considered. In fact, during our consideration of the bill, it was repeatedly raised that there was no socio-economic impact assessment report conducted, and in particular, what was provided to us did not focus on the impact on our creatives and the industries in terms of their rights. The report would have provided the department with the opportunity to identify these issues and solutions, preventing it from going back and forth between spheres of government for years on end. Instead, the flimsy document purported to be a socio-economic impact assessment report is wholly inadequate. During our interrogation of the bill, it became clear that even this document, inadequate as it was not signed off by DTIC before the bill was tabled to the Cabinet. This constitutes a gross violation of due process by the DTIC and disregards best practice in making legislation. Speaker, for these reasons, the DA does not and cannot support the Copyright Amendment Bill.
Thank you very much, honourable members. I have to announce that there are currently 30 honourable members present and entitled to vote, and the House is therefore quorate. The question put before the House is that the report of the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on the Copyright Amendment Bill conferring authority on the Western Cape delegation in the NCOP not to support this bill be ratified and adopted. Are there any objections? There is an objection, and for that reason, I now put the question that those in favor of the report being ratified and adopted, please say aye. Those not in favor of the report being ratified and adopted, please say no. I think the ayes have it. The question is therefore approved. The report on the Standing Committee on Finance, Economic Opportunities and Tourism on the Copyright Amendment Bill has therefore been adopted. Honourable members, that concludes the business for the day. The Secretary will now end the meeting and all members will be exited from the sitting. The House is adjourned.